Eggy, how is everybody doing today? Hello, Bailey. I'm glad you made it on time. For some reason, something feels off today, but I can't quite place it. So hopefully that feeling will go away. But hello. Yes. I think it's probably like, I don't know, I want to say it's because I haven't streamed for a bit, but last time I streamed was on Thursday. That wasn't too long ago. So, I don't know. Your arm hurts. Oh, you played Switch Sports for 4 hours straight. Oh no. Oh no. I know my arms tend to do that, like after like not doing anything in VR for a while and then just hopping into Beat Saber is just like, watch me do it again. It's so fun. I still need to get it. I still need to get it one of these days. Okay, let me see. I'll go ahead and open it up over here. And get it all scooted over. Yeah, I'm hoping we're close to the end. I'm not entirely sure if we are, though. Because, you know, we're still hanging out with Akasaka. Love volleyball. I'm happy with how they did it. I'm excited to give it a try at one point. Hey, let's go ahead and look at Akasaka. In a reality where I guess his wife is alive? Maybe? That or he was just like, I will avenge the death of my wife. Akasaka was training inside a dark dojo filled with the smell of sweat and mold. The dojo was located in the middle of downtown in a small building. It wasn't that big, and they weren't well equipped either. It certainly didn't look like a dojo where a person was skilled as Akasaka would train. There were only 3 or 4 students there, including Akasaka, but this was the dojo he picked. To Akasaka, karate was certainly a weapon for crushing his enemies, but now he was seeking something further from it. To achieve his goal, a dojo with many young students having actual physical lessons wouldn't work. He had gone to so many different dojos, and this was the one he finally settled on. Every time Akasaka punched a sandbag, the heavy thud of his punch and the clang of the sandbag's chain would echo. He wasn't just punching blindly. He thought first, developed those thoughts, and then punch! It was more of a deep and low vibration than a proper sound. Drops of sweat scattered, and the dust welled up in the air. It was a perfect blow embodying the concept of 1 strike, 1 kill. But he wasn't satisfied. He closed his eyes, controlled his breathing as if trying to hear the cry of the cicadas, and then he punched again. From a beginner's perspective, it looked like he was taking breaks between each. The other students training on their own would glance over and sense a fearsome respect at his focused blows. I heard Akasaka-san works at the police department. Really? If someone like him is a police officer, I don't want to do anything bad. Still, his concentration sure is amazing. He never gets tired. On his days off, Akasaka came to the dojo in the early morning, and he silently trained all day. His training was no longer physical, but mental. The other students were already aware that his continuous concentration was the secret of his strength. However, that was easier said than done. As long as a person lives, they are bound by countless ties and idle thoughts. For a person to submit all his will into such singular focus is more like trying to attain enlightenment than something in the realm of martial arts. Man has tried many different methods to achieve such enlightenment. And what we've learned is that there is no one way to reach it. And a path one takes can reach it, if mastered. Karate is what Akasaka chose. The rumors say that his wife is dead. Supposedly he does karate to forget about that. Really? That's different from what I heard. I heard he couldn't save a girl on the job, leading him to realize his weaknesses, or something like that. It's probably both. Hey, I can hear you. Quit talking about other people and train. Yes, sir! There was a small beeping noise. Somebody's watch was letting them know it was noon. Akasaka-san, we're going to get some lunch. Can we get you something too? Sure. I don't care what you get. Thanks. Akasaka was more pleased to be alone in the dojo than to have anyone bring him lunch. When they left, silence filled the building. Shit. My focus dissipated because they were talking about me. But if that happened because of that bit of small talk, that meant he had much more training to do. He had to train much harder if he wanted to achieve enlightenment. He focused again and started to punch the sandbag, but the sound was a lot lighter than before, and obviously the strength in his fists was no longer there. Realizing that he needed to take a break, Akasaka pulled out a towel from his bag and sat down. The sound of cicadas soaked into his body. The windows were open, but there was no breeze coming in. Still, he could feel the cool air, if just a little. Just as they said, the reason Akasaka started karate was because of Yukie's death. Of course, losing against the suspect in that kidnapping incident was one reason too, but more than that, the pain from Yukie's death was what made him start. Yukie fell down the stairs at the hospital and died while he was on the business trip in Shishibone. He couldn't get rid of that depression, so he started learning karate. But in June 1983, when the Great Hinamizawa disaster occurred, he realized something very important. A girl had predicted Yukie's death, and, in return, she wanted him to help her. Yukie's death was an accident. He could have told himself that there was nothing he could have done, but as for the girl, Rika Furude's death was different. She knew about her own death 5 years prior. When the disaster occurred, he remembered Oishi and called him to make sure he was okay, then found out about everything. When he was caught up, he fell into despair. Rika Furude was the turning point in his life. If he had believed what she predicted and did something about it, maybe Yukie wouldn't have had to fall down the stairs. He took the oath to serve the public as a police officer, yet he didn't even notice the plea for help from a little girl. He shoved aside a conspiracy surrounding her until it was too late. He had 5 years to do something about it, but he didn't do anything, and she died. Yeah, you messed up, Akasaka. Visiting Hinamizawa for the kidnapping case of the minister's grandson was definitely the turning point in his life. If he had only listened to what that girl said, Yukie would have never have died. And he could have been there to help Rika Furude. Those two things continued to haunt him. The investigation into the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa that he heard about from Oishi was put in indefinite hiatus because of the disaster, but it was apparent to both of them that there was some conspiracy behind it all. To challenge such things, he needed all the strength and experience he could muster. He was devoting himself to gain such strength, but it was too late. Everything had already ended. While he was stuck in this dilemma, the dojo instructor admonished him. There's nothing no one can do about what's already done. So in that case, the only thing he can do is train diligently, so that if the same thing is to happen again, he will be able to save a person in need. It's all too late. Everything is already over. Yukie died in an accident, Hinamizawa was destroyed in a gas disaster, and Rika-chan was murdered as her intestines were ripped out while she was still alive. Shit. I was too obsessed with Yukie's death and couldn't hear the girl's pleas for help. No, if I had listened to her, I could have prevented Yukie's accident too. Damn it. Damn it. Shit. As Akasaka clutched his hair and looked up, he noticed a small shrine overhead that protected the dojo. Akasaka respected both Shinto and Buddhism, but he had never thought of praying to gods in times of despair. But for the first time, he felt like praying for help. If it was something he was capable of doing himself, he would have never even considered praying. But as it was something he couldn't resolve on his own, he prayed. It was a very selfish wish. If his wish were to come true, everyone in the world would wish for the same thing. Please, please give me another chance to go back to that time. I swear that this time, I will save the both of them. At that moment, Akasaka's body suddenly felt very light. No, it was more like he was losing balance, as if he was fainting. Perhaps it was because he shouted so loudly after training and his brain was lacking in oxygen. But he couldn't take his eyes off of the shrine. Oh, I wonder if that's why he was there in the previous one. Thank you, Akasaka. We needed your thoughts. Was this a hallucination? Akasaka felt like a stranger was talking to him. We must wish for a miracle. And you must wish for a miracle too. Otherwise, a miracle will never occur. Unless everyone wishes for a miracle, it won't occur. Unless both sides reach out, their hands won't meet in the middle. He didn't know what she was trying to say, but somehow he felt like he couldn't miss a single word of it. He felt like it was something very, very important. Akasaka, if you wish for it, I'll grant you this miracle. It'll be a miracle for us too. Joining these broken fragments will give us the chance to create an even greater fragment. Your resolve, on its own, may greatly influence everyone's fates and intentions. Can you turn back time to that day? No, I can't do that. The only thing I can do is to let you notice. To let you notice that things you can't learn from one fragment, you can learn from others. So all you have to do is to return this broken fragment to where it belongs. That's a big miracle itself. Although, you probably won't even notice it. Thank you, Akasaka. Thank you for remembering me. I don't even know how much time I've spent asking you for help, but finally it reached you. So I'll say it one more time. Please help me. No, please help us. Whoa! And so now we should be going back to the crew. I think. Eh? Wait, why is that one broken? Well, I guess that's the one we're going to. At least I think. It was long. It was really long. Are you okay? Is your spirit still alive? Do we have all the pieces we want lined up on the game board? Is this everything we have to go up against Takano and her minions in the Game of Fate in June 1983? I think, maybe, we have everything. And last but not least, Hanya, it's you. The time you have left to be a piece is limited, but that doesn't mean that you can't show up in the game. Shall we begin? I've put in hundreds of years just for this moment. Someone once suggested that believing is like placing a bet with coins of hope. In other words, believing means taking a risk. You gain something if you win, but you lose something if you fail. As with any gamble, we try to make sure we win and then bet a coin. But as with any gamble, there's no guarantee of victory. Sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose, and that's how you increase the number of coins you have. But if you keep losing, you don't want to continue gambling. It's then that you realize that if you don't gamble, you don't have to lose anything. Not gambling on anything is the same as not believing in anything. Not believing in anything is the same as not involving yourself in anything. And not involving yourself in anything is the same as not existing. Therefore, she didn't exist. The one coin she had in her heart was the last one. If she lost it, she'd disappear. That's why she was hesitating to make a bet. She had been running, trying not to get involved in any type of match, because she was afraid of betting it by accident. But just like in a game of poker, she could lose her coin by folding. She tried not to lose her last coin, but that meant she was going to lose it eventually anyway. There was something she didn't know. Actually, I didn't know at that time either. The more coins I bet into a pool, the higher our chances of winning this game. In other words, the more frightened we are, the more we'll keep losing the game before us. It's just like carrying a portable shrine. It's impossible to carry such a heavy burden by oneself. But when people put their strength together, they can lift it easily. There's a clear borderline between too heavy to lift and easily lifted. It's just like how the balance on a scale tips just with a little weight. A big, heavy shrine before us couldn't be lifted. Everyone tried their hardest to raise it, but couldn't. It didn't help because I was sure it couldn't budge. I didn't participate in games I know I can't win, so I can't bet my coin, or I didn't bet my coin. But that was wrong of me. Maybe the portable shrine could have been lifted if I joined. For the longest time, I'd been pretending to be a bystander. I always thought I was there just to find out if my coin was worth betting or not. But that was wrong. I'm not just an onlooker, nor should I be just a bystander. I should have participated. The game I've been facing doesn't look like a game I can win. It doesn't look like a game that's worth betting on. But by betting on it, or by participating in it, or by believing in it, the outcome might change. To gamble on something is the same as to believe in something. To believe in something is the same as to be involved in something. To be involved in something is the same as to exist. Therefore, she existed. Okay, everyone. Homeroom is starting. No more chit-chatting. Class rep, go ahead. All rise. Bow. Good morning. Sit down. Rattle, 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 rattle. It's an ordinary morning. The only difference is that it started a little later than usual. Chia-sensei normally arrives in the classroom right away, but she's a little late today. Why was she late for homeroom? The rumors were already stirring about the classroom before she arrived. Chia-sensei gave a cue, and a girl peeked in the room timidly.
Hello.
This is a new student, Hanyu Furude-san. She's going to be joining us starting today.
Wow!
The voices of welcome, delight, and surprise all mixed together and filled the classroom.
Furude? Is she related to Rika-chan? Yes, she is. She's my distant relative.
I feel like voices are off, but that's okay.
My, that's quite a surprise even to me. I was uninformed that Rika had relatives.
Hey, this old man didn't know either. Well, the three families are rather complicated. I wouldn't be surprised if I had different distant relatives myself.
But she sure does look related to Rika-chan. What a cutie! Hello.
All my classmates had gotten excited. The new girl looked rather intimidated by it all. Rika-chan is rather carefree, but this Hanyu seems like a complete opposite. She's more like a shy woodland animal, the exact type that Rena loves. Look, see? Rena is ready to swallow her whole. Oh no. Okay, Hanyu-san, please introduce yourself. Settle down, everyone. Go ahead, Hanyu-san. Chia-sensei left the podium and encouraged Hanyu to take over. The even greater pressure of the silence left her standing there timidly for a little bit. Well, that's understandable. It's very nerve-wracking to watch, though.
Hello. I'm Rika Furude. Hello. I'm Rika's relative. She's my relative. Please be nice to her.
Rika-chan can tell that she's too nervous to introduce herself. She's right to break the silence. Pressuring her like that isn't fair, which is why I decided to make it more lively. You're called Furude, just like Rika-chan, huh? Now we have two Furudes in this class.
Then how about we call her Hanyu-san? If we call her Furude-san, Rika might think we are addressing her, don't you think?
Yeah, Hanyu! We generally call each other by our first names here. She's one of us starting today, so we should call her by her first name too. Okay, it's decided. We'll call you Hanyu. I'm Mion Sonozaki, the class president. Call me Mion, okay?
I am Satoko Hojo. Very pleased to meet you, Hanyu-san.
I'm Daiki Tomita. My parents run a tofu shop. Please come by anytime. I'm Suguru Okamura. Please ask me if you don't know anything. Hello, let's be friends, okay? What grade are you in? Our classmates fell over each other to introduce themselves. Everyone tried to get her to remember their names so that they could be friends. A friendly atmosphere swelled in the room. I've only just transferred recently myself, but this is exactly how it was on my first day too. I remember how nervous I was and how much I appreciated this as a result. I know more than anyone how nerve-wracking it is to be a new student. I should look after her.
I agree. We'll have to help her blend into the class quickly.
Right. You were a new student last year, huh? Were you nervous on your first day too?
Yep, but Mi-chan and the others were so nice to me that I got used to the class pretty quickly.
Well, yeah. To welcome a newcomer to the village is one of the three families' important duties. You only mention the three families when it suits your purposes, but it's true that you all helped me get used to such a different environment. In that case, doesn't that mean it's your turn to look after her, Kei-chan? Yeah, I thought so too. Rena was a new student, but she looked after me when I got here. So it's my turn to look after the next new student. A new student always dramatically changes the atmosphere of a class. Even my attitude was changed. We decided to gather around Hanyu during lunch break.
We're gonna have fun.
Okay, remember, you can only ask Hanyu one question each, okay? Why don't we ask her some personal questions so we get to know her better? Let's see, who'll be the first to go? You're up, Okamura. What's your favorite food?
like sweets. My favorite kind of cream puffs. Oh, that's wonderful. I love cream puffs too. There's a very good sweet shop in Okinomiya. I'll take you there sometime.
Okay, boys, did you hear all that? If you want Hanya to like you, you gotta get her some cream puffs, okay? Not the cheap ones, though. Get her something expensive. Let's see, who's next? If there's no one else, I'll ask what color her underwear is today.
Ow, ow, ow.
Everyone kept asking Hanyu questions, and she looked all panicky again. I guess this is like a traditional ceremony for a new student. I remember this is exactly how my first day went. Mion and Satoko seem amused, so it must be the same for them too. I noticed Rena watching the scene before her with a distant look in her eyes. She's probably remembering her first day too. Are you recalling what it's like?
Yeah.
Were you thinking about something else? You weren't thinking about taking Hanyu home, are you?
No way! I'm not thinking that since Hanyu-chan likes cream puffs and since I have some good cream puffs at home and then she could come over or anything like that.
If she doesn't come to school tomorrow, it'll be your fault, Rena.
Oh, that's mean.
As we watched Hanyu and her classmates have fun, Rena and I laughed together.
Hey, Keiichi-kun, this sure is great, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's great to meet a new classmate.
No, not that. I mean, I think I've seen her a few times before.
Hanyu? Maybe you saw her when she and her family came to look at the area before they moved here. You sure have a good memory, Rena.
No, it's not like that. Hanyu-chan has been here for a long time. She's been right beside us all a while, watching us play together. For ages now. Huh? Is it just me? Didn't you notice Keiichi-kun?
No, I haven't seen her before. So are you saying that you've met her before, Rena? From what I can see, this is the first time Mion and Satoko have met Hanyu. If she's been that close to us, like Rena said, it's impossible that none of us would remember her. Are you sure? Besides, Hanyu is a transfer student. She couldn't have been here in this village that often.
Do you think so? I swear I've seen her pretty often.
It's your imagination. Even Hanyu just said that she was living far away before she moved here.
But I've seen her before.
And then it looked like she was trying to remember more. It's probably one of those deja vu experiences. Although it is the first time you see something, it feels like you've seen it before. Oh well, just forget about it. She's here now, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. She always seemed so eager to join us, so I'm glad that she's one of us now.
Rena smiled with tears in her eyes. When I looked over at her, Rika-chan was wearing the same expression. It made no sense to me why those two looked that way. But as soon as Satoko came over and pulled a prank on me, I forgot all about it. And then we fought. We just beat each other up. Everybody in the village can hear our fighting. See you later! Those are the words that signal the best time of the school day. As soon as the last period ended, my classmates ran out of the room. Hanyu was popular all day today. She's Rika-chan's age, so all the lower grade students gathered around her. Other older students like me and Mion didn't have a chance to get close to her. Well, I'm sure they'd rather have a new student who's their age than a scary-looking older guy.
That's right. You looked so scary at first, Keiichi-kun. It was probably because you were nervous.
Hey, that's mean. I was trying to be friendly so I could get along with the class.
You were far from friendly. You slapped me upside the head on your first day, Keiichi-san. Don't you recall?
That's because of how I was treated on my very first day. There was a thumbtack in the seat of my chair and even a frog in my desk.
We heard that there was a new student in the teacher's office, so we went to take a peek. We saw you there, and you looked so nervous that Satoko must have thought that she had to do something to help you relax. As your elder, I was being considerate, you see.
That's impossible. Although that blackboard eraser trap sure did help ease my tension, but Satoko will be so pleased with herself if I tell her that, so I'll never admit it.
How How sweet.
Hanya-chan must have gone home with everyone else. I'm sure she's still popular even after school. Still, your first day at a new school is always really exhausting. I'm sure she'll sleep very well tonight.
I'm quite sure too. Oh, ho, ho, ho.
Okay, everyone, it's been a while since I've been busy with work quite a bit lately. It's time for a club meeting!
I've been waiting for this. It's been so long since that I've gotten rusty. Beep. I've been bored because I haven't rubbed a loser's head in a while. I won't lose. I won't be holding back just because it's been a while.
You sure have pent up frustrations, huh? Great, that makes things even more interesting. Everyone's motivated, huh? You better watch out, I'm on my top form today. Mion, you're going to wish that you went to work instead. Mion's had to work quite a bit lately because of her uncle's shop is short on staff, so we haven't done any club activities for a long while. For us, club activities are the main reason we come to school. In a way, we live for these few hours after school. If there were no club activities, there's no point in coming here at all. So it only makes sense for us to be excited about getting to have a meeting again. I guess none of us will be satisfied with an ordinary game. What should we play? Mion looked into the club locker. I'm always curious about what's in that locker and how much of it is there is. I swear there's more in there than it can realistically hold. Just then, we heard the door open.
Oh, Honey-chan. Oh, hello. What are you doing here? Did you forget something?
I thought she had already gone home. Did she forget her lunchbox or something? It's not that big of a deal to forget a textbook, but you can't forget a lunchbox.
Hello.
Hanyu, what is it? Are you looking for something? Hanyu looked at us apologetically. What is it? Are we in the way? She kept staring at us timidly. Are we sitting in Hanyu's seat? No, that's not it.
What is it, Honey-chan? Can we help you? Can we? Hello.
Nana talked to her, but there was no communication to be had. Almost like trying to have a conversation with a stray cat. What is this? Hanyu was fixated on something. I followed her gaze and found Rika-chan. Hanyu's apologetic gaze was directed at Rika-chan.
Me. Hello. I won't say anything. If you want it, you need to say it yourself, Hanyu. Hello.
With that, I finally figured it out. Hanyu wanted to say something, but she didn't know how to say it, so she wanted Rika-chan to say it for her, but Rika-chan told her to say it herself. In other words, we need to listen to what Hanyu has to say. We patiently waited for Hanyu to speak up. But when I think about what happened this morning, I realize this kind of silence makes her even more nervous. Rena, noticing that, talked to her in a sweet tone of voice.
What is it, Hanyu-chan? Can you tell me? I'll help you. Hello. What is it? Can you say it one more time? Hello. Eh?
Rena raised her voice. What? Let this old man know too. What is it?
Are you sure? What could it be? Please share it with us. Well, I want to join your club.
Hanyu said it loudly as if to shake off her embarrassment. Now that's a surprise. Where did you hear about us?
Hello. I want to join. I want to join your club. Very good. You did a good job. Pachi.
Rika-chan must have known that Hanyu wanted to join the club all along. Mion folded her arms with a smile and stared at Hanyu as if appraising her. Needless to say, Hanyu was intimidated. You're awfully reckless, jumping into mortal peril by choice. But our club isn't just any old club. Only select few are allowed to join, and that's only after passing a gruesome trial. Just because you want to join doesn't mean you can, you know.
Look, Hanyu-chan. Mi-chan's club might look fun, but... you know, it's not that easy. Oh, I already know that. You have to win. Otherwise, you don't know what might happen. Are you sure you're aware of that? I won't lose. Besides...
Hanyu swallowed once and said what was on her mind. It sounded like a big thing for her to say, as though it was had a much deeper meaning.
I used to hate to lose, so I always ran away from every game. But running away is even worse than losing. I can work only if I continue to fight, despite the pain of failure. That's something I've learned. Hanyu?
When Mion realized that, although she looks timid, Hanyu is actually very courageous. She grinned. Looks like she's grown fond of her. Well, she's got guts. How about it, Mion? Why don't we let her try, huh? Let her take the entrance exam. Usually takes more than a few weeks to determine if one is even qualified to take the exam, yet she wants to take it on her first day. What should I do? Mion pretended to be stubborn, but in reality, she was simply playing with her. If she actually didn't want her to join, she would have refused her right away. Of course, if Hanyu was bothered by this kind of intimidation, she wouldn't be able to survive in this club. Just like Rena and Satoko said, our club is relentless. Winning should be your utmost goal. Always aim for first place. And if you come in last, you'll wish that you were never born.
Well, I'll do my best. The punishment for losing is actually kind of fun, too.
Hanyu-chan, you've been watching the whole time, huh? You've been wanting to join for the longest time, huh? I get the feeling that Rena just mumbled something like that. Come on, Mion, let her try. I got in by going through that too, you know?
Quite true. Let us see what Hanyu-san is made of. Have fun, Hanyu-chan. I won't hold back, okay? I won't hold back either. I'll only give you my best, Hanyu. Well.
I'm kind of playing around with, like, altering Hanyu's voice a little bit since she's gonna be here more. Very well, Hanyu Frude, you're on. You're allowed to take the entrance exam. Okay then, we'll have to choose a game that Hanyu knows how to play. What would be good? Oh! What about this? Mion threw a deck of cards onto the desk. Does this mean? We'll play a game that everyone knows. How about Old Maid?
That's fine.
Here she goes. This is exactly what I had to endure when I went through this entrance exam. This is the marked tile deck.
That's a very enthusiastic response. However, our club's version of Old Maid is a little different, no?
Most of the cards have scratches on the back, so by memorizing the scratches, you can tell what card it is. In other words, the more you've played this game, the better you are at it. That's simply our way of being mean to newcomers.
Hanyu-chan, you can do it. This is a trial. Oh, you can do it. Yeah!
This sure brings back memories. I had to go through this too. It keeps like switching back between Rika and Keiichi like super fast. It just happened recently, but I still feel so nostalgic. However, see, it switched again. That doesn't mean I'll go easy on you. Just like how merciless you all were when I did the exam, I'll put everything I got into this. Right, everyone?
Prepare yourself, Hanyu-san.
Here we go. If you want to join, let us see what you've got.
Roger.
How many timelines are there? Lot. We only see like 8, but there is 100 years worth.
Also, hello, Rocket. How you doing today?
I'll call your hand from the right, okay? Ace, 3, 4, 7, Jack, and Queen.
It's too late to hide now. Wow. Sorry, Hanyu-chan. This is the Ace of Spades, right? I'm out.
Do you get it, Hanyu? This is the entrance exam for our club.
Meep, Keitsu's putting his leftover grudge from his own entrance exam into this game. Meepa.
Come on, Kei-chan. Are you sure you should be saying things like that? Hanyu, take Kei-chan's card on the right. That's what you need to win.
Oh, I'm done.
What? That's not fair. Okay, I'm dead serious now. How dare you make me mad? Hanyu, do you want to go home on a leash wearing shorts with a tail on them on your first day? This is my mood, oh no. The crucified Garf, no.
Fine, I think you would look better in them, Keitsu-san. Keitsu-san. Yes. Machikairi. I'll make him do the punishment.
That's a great idea. I'm in too. Hey, you guys, why are you picking on me, huh? Fine then. I'm going to make all of you do it. It would be kind of fun if it actually showed... Oh my gosh, they got serious in this one. But I was saying it would be kind of fun if they actually showed the like loser in the punishment game outfit. They did in the anime. But it would be fun to see the little sprites. But, you know, that's all good. Okay, this is the banquet section. Can you hear me? One more speech and we'll move on to the toast. Are you ready? This is the back end. We're ready. We can't hear anything from inside, so please give us a cue when the speech is finishing up. 10 bottles per table, okay? Make sure you serve the tables smoothly. Young waiters with bow ties got bottles of beer ready for a toast. There are several dozen tables with white cloths on them in the banquet room. Approximately 8 people are sitting at each table, so there were at least a few hundred people there. The banquet room is teeming with excitement. There are many plates with different kinds of food on each table. A sushi platter, a sashimi platter, a fruit platter. Also along the wall, there were cooks ready to serve fresh sashimi. I feel this was earlier, yeah. Assuming there's timelines only last a year, there's only 100 routes, but it's factoring in the time pre-game that's potentially only 10, and we both know that isn't the case. Yeah, because it's like, because it seems like for the earlier timelines, they went for longer, but then they kind of like slowly decrease. So, because you don't want to assume that each route or each timeline they go through that month. So, yeah, they never go into detail, but I would be curious as to like how many lives. All the guests appear to be well-mannered gentlemen, and obviously there are notable people from different fields. The huge and beautiful chandelier above them clearly tells that this hotel holds a status good enough for these famous people. An elderly gentleman is giving a long speech on the stage before making a toast. Usually people don't like such long speeches, especially if it's before a toast. But the guests are actually excited with his speech. Maybe the word excited isn't suitable. Maybe it should be described as an upsurge in a strange way. This is just a massive time sink, but a good one, yeah. Anyway, Japan accepted the demand for unconditional surrender, and the day they did, the Pacific War ended. In other words, even if they had to take care of further business, the war ended that day according to the international law, and from that day on there was peace. Therefore, if any troops invaded Japanese land during the peace, it would be an encroachment against Japan. No matter what the Soviet Union says, the northern territories are Japanese land, and it should be clear to everyone that they invaded illegally. Hear, hear. And now they want to settle by returning a mere 2 islands to us. Who do they think they're kidding? Listen, Habomai, Shinkotan, Kunasir, and Ituro are Japanese territory. Their total area is equal to an entire prefecture. What would you think if the Soviets invaded and occupied one of our prefectures? Would you settle for just getting half of a prefecture back? No, you wouldn't! You'd have the entirety returned to you. Yet the Soviets are brazenly sitting there claiming vested rights to the land. This is no joke. We must strongly oppose this to the bitter end. Return all the northern islands. Our nation must demonstrate unwavering resolve on that point. I miss Angel more. It's just like Crush with DLC in Red Dead 2. Eh? Thunderous applause filled the banquet room. All the gentlemen agreed and expressed that they felt that way by cheering him on.
Oh, Akasaka!
In all the hubbub, there were two people standing by the wall who didn't seem to fit in with the rest. They were wearing sharp-looking suits, and while a little too old to be called young men, were certainly young compared to all the elderly gentlemen in the banquet room. Why do politicians always tend to lean right or nationalist? And be so partisan? That's simple. What politicians want most are votes. And votes are cast by their constituents. But not everyone over 20 actually votes. Voter turnout is highest amongst those who are retired and have free time, so the elderly interested in politics monopolize the votes. That means the key to their election is whether or not they can secure the elderly vote. The war only happened 40 years ago. In other words, the generation that's interested in voting is the generation from before the war. My mother talks about air raids often. She used to live near Suidubashi. I probably messed that up entirely, and she lost all of her family in an air raid. She had to walk across the burnt fields all alone. That's right. Our parents went through the war. They shed their blood, sweat, and tears, believing it was for the good of the nation. We lost the war, but they believed the war was still brought about the change and serves as a foundation of the peace we have today. See, listen here, rich losers. If I get an island, there's a good chance I'll hire people to build me a mecca because rich people reasons, right? It's like if I'm rich enough to buy an island, I'm rich enough to make a mech. I hear that a lot. That if Japan hadn't fought in the war, the Asian countries would still be Western colonies. There was no way we could have won, but we needed to fight that war, or something like that. Sorry, I was distracted by the lyrics. Why are they singing about Y2K? This is the 80s! Anyway. In that case, no matter how much they preach pacifism, politicians can't ignore the pre-war generation. War is bad, and we should never again fight a war. But that war was necessary. Unless they say things like that, it's like they're denying the very lives that generation lived. I see. Politicians have to work hard to earn votes, huh? However, it would be one thing if they were truly proclaiming their own beliefs, but many of them are simply saying that to get elected. Pardon me. As long as there are politicians trying to win over what remains of the pre-war generation, the country's post-war era will never end. That's how the ghosts of the war will pass on their will onto the next generation and keep things the same for the new millennium. They'll just keep repeating that the war was justified yet regrettable every time an election takes place. When will our country ever be freed from that cycle? God, if I had more influence or more money, I'd be actually an evil genius, right? I don't know for more influence, but if I had more money, I would probably buy my friends things. I already buy one of my friends things, and I'm like, no, it's fine. I didn't have any figures to buy this month. It's simple. Young people need to vote. Don't be fooled by war stories. Vote for those actually pushing policies. Realistic policies, that is. Yeah. There are a few who talk about pretty unrealistic things. Akasaka-san, isn't that the F table? There she is. Let's go. The speech had ended, and the elderly gentlemen were giving the man on the stage a standing ovation. The two men walked through the crowd and approached the old lady in the kimono. Yes? That would be me, but who are you? I made an appointment with you on the phone yesterday. I'm Akasaka. And it's gonna go back to the friends, right? Oh, okay, I don't think this is the friends. My husband worked so hard for this country. Even so. Madam, I understand what you're going through. This wasn't really anything out of the ordinary. Nobody could remember if there had been a donation or not, so a handful of politicians were questioned. As a result, some came up with a scheme to blame a sickly elderly man who had already retired. With only a short time to live anyway, he was the perfect fit for them. You know how close I've gotten to becoming a B-rate Batman or Scooby-Doo? Oh no. Fear. The elderly man had already been sick in bed, and the shock of his friends betraying him had taken away his will to live. The only thing his wife could do was to simply watch him suffer. She kept crying while telling the men about her husband's achievements. If your husband is, in fact, innocent, a judge will be ruling accordingly. Don't worry. All false accusations will be cleared.
I already know that, because he is innocent, but he won't live to see the verdict. He worked so hard for this country, and this is what he gets in return at the end? Oh no! Oh
no! Oh no!
But that wasn't a link.
Sorry about that, Rocket Lizzie. I'm calmed down quite a bit after high school, but I've almost become the IRL Dr. Freeze. Oh no! Yeah, Streamlabs is a bully. Let's see, where was I? But he won't live to see the verdict. He worked so hard for this country, and this is what he gets in return at the end.
How can he rest in peace?
Akasaka nodded and tried to find the right words to say to her. His colleague rummaged through a pile of paperwork behind him. The papers were filled with the fine print, and it would be hard for an onlooker to tell exactly what they were. However, the way he was looking at them made it very clear that they contained something important. Akasaka-san, this is amazing. This records exactly how the money was moved. Akasaka gave him a signal to remind him that this wasn't the place to be looking through those documents. Madam, there isn't any more paperwork, is there? No, that was the only thing in his safe. Please, use it to get back at those ingracious bastards. My husband did so much for them, and yet they... Oh! Madam, you do understand that some things in these documents will implicit him, don't you? Or implicate.
Yes, I understand that. One can't be honest all the time when one is a politician, you know. Sometimes you gotta a person, you know. Sometimes you gotta somebody and then be like, hi, I did not that person.
Yes, I am his wife after all. Thank you for your cooperation. I will use this to expose the injustice that was done to him.
Only one thing. May I ask you just one thing, though? Could you wait until my husband passes away before making this public? He would... If this was revealed before he dies, he would die.
The paperwork Akasaka received was something her husband intended to take to the grave with him. Something that shouldn't exist in this world. If it went public, her husband's name would be disgraced. Akasaka nodded. I understand. You have my word. Vast public funds were moving from Kasumigaseki. The funds were issued to sub-branches to carry out national policies, but various ideas over these public funds always came together, and there was never an end to those trying to poke a straw into it to suck it out like a mosquito. Excess dividends, cordial patronage, profits of organizations that benefited themselves. Many financiers approached and adhered to officials and politicians hoping to earn these gains, and the bureaucrats constantly indulged them. That's how Japanese corruption works. These illegal pipes form bypass after bypass in Kusamigaseki, siphoning off public funds from their profit. Sorry, I've never seen this. I've never pronounced this word. To find and to destroy such pipes is, of course, in national interest, but eliminating illegal expenditures isn't as simple as that. There are important people connected to those pipes, and when those people are investigated, a major political scandal takes place. The reason why the government doesn't investigate such illegal expenditures is not only to protect vested interests, but also because they are conscious of the damage these scandals can cause publicly. To put it more succinctly? I'm gonna say that succinctly. The government can't endure the pain of pushing pus out of the wound. The closer the exposed subject is to the top, the greater the pain faced by the government and the effects the cabinet approval rating. And the closer the subject is to the core, the more extensive the damage to the heart. The secret investigation Akasaka was leading went as close to the heart as it got, and could cause a collapse of the administration from shock. Akasaka was tipped off that a huge amount of public funding was leaking out through an alumni organization of the 7 imperial universities, so he and his colleagues had been conducting a secret investigation on the matter for a long time. In my sophomore year of high school, I became very interested how the snowmaker at a ski resort works, so I built one. But one day after school was just that stream full, I almost snowed in the buses, so school was canceled, but I talked myself out of it and used it to make a good sledding hill better. Nice! Yeah, that was a lot of power. Comes great power, comes great responsibility, and you did it correctly. I don't know.
Yeah, Bailey, Rocket got smited a little bit, but that's okay.
At least Streamlabs only, does it for a second.
But, bots be ornery.
His target was tightly knit, but he learned the wife of one of the organization's senior members bore the strongest resentment towards him after her husband was made their scapegoat, and he managed to contact her. I don't know if you can post links. You might get bonked too. I don't know if VIPs have the permission. So I think I would still have to permit, or else the bot will bonk. And I really wish I need to figure out a different bot, because I really wish that it would just I've whitelisted clips. But I really need to find a bot that'll do what I have set up for this bot, but only purge the offending message. Because if someone accidentally makes something a link, it's just nope, you don't exist anymore. Yeah, bots are very ornery. They just bullet time bonk. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I think there's an option for some bots, but I looked into it for the bot that I use, and it was no. all the things that I found were yeah, I wish that was an option. But I see it in other people's chats, so it's something. Don't know which. Let's see, one day I'll smack bots, maybe. Perhaps. And because of that, he had got his hands on extremely important information. I hope I read the whole page there. I hope. Yeah. No, I don't think I did. His target was tightly knit, but he learned the wife of one of his organization's senior members bore strong resentment towards them after her husband had made their scapegoat, and he managed to contact her. Okay, I think, okay, just in case. Just make me a modifier. The bots will still bonk. I mainly try to have. I mainly have it just so that way, it doesn't even get the bots though. The bots that are hey, you want to buy followers? Do you want to buy followers? Go to this link. You'll love it. It's totally not a scam. But sometimes they put a space in there, so it doesn't even get them sometimes. Anyway. Good work, everyone. We've almost gathered enough proof. What Akasaka-kun brought us in is particularly shocking. You must have worked hard to get it. Great work. Thank you. I don't know where we're at. This is the background for the school, but it's definitely not the school. A small meeting room was filled with boxes that were, in turn, filled with documents. A whiteboard was filled with cramped writing, too. A few of the investors in the meeting room, which were also filled with smoke, were reading the documents intensely. Their intimidating manner clearly indicated that they were police officers with a great deal of experience. Watch this, you're going to hit a ball. Oh no, you rolled a 13! The dice didn't bonk you! Akasaka was one of those men. It was like the scene earlier in this chapter where
Where she was just like, if you want to kill me, God, strike me right now. You won't bet. It didn't. It was just like, heck, I guess I'll have to live. It had been a while since Mamuda Akasaka was transferred to this department. When he worked on this case of the kidnapping of Minister Inukai's grandson, he had been a rookie, but by now he was an experienced investigator. After a knock on the door, an elderly man entered the room. Everyone straightened up all at once. Sir, thank you for stopping by. Thank you. You don't need to stand. Relax. I brought a wonderful gift for you all today. Kano, you'll get to go to your son's Parents' Day meeting after all. The meeting room was filled with sighs tinged with aspiration and resignation. It certainly wasn't because of any of them hated going to Parents' Day. Spite now, Zeus! I knew it. I knew it was about time. Shit, Akasaka's colleague complained. They had been so close to getting to the root of this issue. They had had such strong evidence. Akasaka, on his part, wasn't too disturbed. This had happened several times in the past, and considering how hot the documents he obtained were, it was easy enough to predict. The case was suddenly transferred to another department. That meant their investigation ended here. The new department was supposed to continue the investigation to expose injustices, but that's never happened once before. It was just an excuse. The investigation had been terminated because of the pressure from above. Damn it. What about everything we've worked so hard for? It was just to see how much it hurt to push out the pus. They realized that it would be too painful, so they decided not to treat the wound. In that sense, their hard work wasn't wasted. Because of it, the investigation was terminated. Akasaka understood that, but his colleague wasn't yet mature enough to understand. Of course, Akasaka's sense of justice was displeased by this. He felt frustrated with his superiors, who had hesitated to expose the truth. But he was mature enough to know not to say that out loud. We'll organize what we have and hand it over to the other end later. Anyway, since you haven't had a day off for a long time, you don't have to wait until 5 p.m. to leave today. Please go home and get some rest. We'll talk about what's left to do tomorrow. Also, don't forget to use up your vacation time too. Make sure you take a vacation and give a treat to your spouses. Chief, please come with me. That'll be all. Yes, sir. I feel a little bit more extra than I usually am.
You seem a little bit extra, not in a bad way, but you seem a little sassier than usual.
6, ooh, that's dangerous. Though his long secret investigation left a bad taste in his mouth with this resolution, he managed to earn a holiday until the next incident arrived. Well, I guess we'll do as he says. Everyone, go home and get some rest. If we go home that early, you might find out your wife is having an affair, you know. Yeah, play with fire, how can you guess? Oh my gosh, Bailey. You be safe over there. I don't know if the roll thing timing you out will take away the VIP. I know it takes away mod privileges from people. I'm going to make my fate my personal toy. Yeah, you do have to wait a minute between each roll. The mess, you don't know anything. Akasaka-san and his wife are madly in love. He calls her every night from a public phone in a different building. I envy you, Akasaka. My wife is pretty cold. Akasaka smiled bitterly as he gathered the documents in his hands. One of the pages fell to the floor. It was a page from a huge pile of papers documenting illegal expenditures. They exposed an illegal expenditure of the Alphabet Project, the research team for the next generation of hardware in the Defense Agency. It was entirely possible that this project was created in the first place for the purpose of funneling those illegal expenditures. When he saw the paper, one thing caught Akasaka's eye. He picked it up, looked at it, and tried to remember. It was a list of people who illegally received public funds. It was also a list of retirees who were still very much in love with money. There should have been no connection between these people and Akasaka. However, there was one thing that caught his attention. The Iri Clinic. Don't want to lose VIP. I mean, if you do, I can give it back to you. But I'm just saying that as a warning. As soon as he said it, all sorts of memories resurfaced. guess. The Iri Clinic. When he was working on the case of Minister Inukai's grandson abduction, he got into a scuffle with the suspect and became injured. He was taken to the local clinic. As he recalled, the name of the clinic was the Iri Clinic. Time to gamble! Oh my gosh, another 6! He started to remember one thing after another. His very first experience was wading into the muck. It was burnt into his mind like a fresh memory, and he could vividly recall everything that happened. His daughter was about to be born, and he really didn't want to go to Hinamizawa. He met Oishi, who taught him a lot of important things. He also met a girl in that village. Her name was... yes, Rika Frude. That was it. How long it had been? How old was she now? As he remembered her lovely smile, he also remembered the ominous prediction she made. God, I hope I can keep this mood of mine up for after I finish rebranding, because this can make some fun, right? Just be chaotic. She had predicted that if he didn't go back to Tokyo, something terrible would happen. At the time, he took it as nonsense, but he felt something odd about it, as if it was a divine omen. When he had remembered Yukie, who was about to give birth, he became concerned that something terrible would happen to her. But he couldn't just leave and go back to Tokyo. That's why he called her right away. He told her something would happen. He told her to be very careful until he returned. Yukie had laughed and told him he was being paranoid, but that phone call indeed saved her from a calamity. Akasaka had found out about that when he visited her after returning to Tokyo. A few days after his phone call, a janitor was seriously injured when he stepped on a loose tile on the stairs on his way to the rooftop. He also heard afterwards that Yukie had a habit of going up to the roof for a walk every day, but because of his phone call, she had stopped doing it. If he hadn't called her, she would have been the one to step on the loose tile. Hey, not the best of rolls, but you're not rolling too bad. Nothing bad could ever happen. In other words, Rika Furude's prediction... Bailey, why do you keep rolling 6s? Why? That is your third 6! In other words, Rika Furude's prediction had been correct. There was no proof, but Akasaka still believed that he was able to save Yukie only because of Rika Furude's prediction. He'd intended to call and thank her for saving Yukie, but the busy days that followed put it out of his mind. Rika-chan. He wondered if she was still doing well, if she was still smiling. Go to Hinamizawa. Akasaka remembered the sad prediction she made on that night under the moon, while still wearing that smile. That's right. She'd said something. She predicted someone would get killed on the night of the festival every year, and that on the 5th year in, she'd be the one to be killed. Your rolls are slowly getting better. That's right, he thought, and she did say that. The 5th year, that's this year. The festival is... That's right, it's in June. If he remembered correctly, it happens on the last Sunday of the month. Akasaka looked at the calendar. It was June 1983. Although there was still some time, the death she predicted on herself was coming up. The girl who'd predicted Yukie's accident also prophesied a mysterious incident would occur annually on the next 5 years. If they'd actually been happening, then it would happen again this year. Make wax wings and I'm going into the sun. Oh no! Rocket now! I think it's wild how long Higurashi games are. Yeah. Akasaka wondered if Oishi was still at the Okinomiya PD. If the annual incident she predicted actually was taking place, he would know. In other words, he could confirm if Rika Furude was going to be killed or not with a phone call to Oishi. The girl who predicted her own death had muttered that she didn't want to die. I think, I think if it didn't do the, fragment connecting and the, backstory of Takano, it probably wouldn't be that long. I don't know how long this chapter is gonna be, but it's pretty long. It's like, wow, there's a lot that's not in the anime. Right? I think it's more of they condense it a little bit. I don't know, it's very interesting. I get a 4 or better, I'll redeem a woo. Oh no. Panic. Muttered? No. It was clearly a plea for help. A young girl who was trapped in the fathomless, bizarre traditions of a village she couldn't escape had sought help from him, an outsider. She paid his reward in advance, in the form of foreseeing Yukie's accident. He had to go get to her. He had to go save her. A flood of emotions filled him up. He felt as though he had finally remembered something he was never supposed to forget. That's right. He had to go to Hinamizawa. He had to save the girl who asked him for help. Hello, Okinomiya PD? Hello, is Kurado Oishi still working in your investigation department? If he is, may I talk to him, please? Excuse me, may I ask who's calling? Could you tell him it's Akasaka from the police headquarters? Oishi was a very lively person, but he had been old even back then. Maybe he had already transferred somewhere else, or maybe he has since retired. But he was still there. He'd be happy to hear from Akasaka. Don't worry, I'm getting cocky. I'll likely get burned on this next one. Oh no. Just watch it be a 1. He sure had a unique laugh. Oishi-san, there's a phone call for you. Someone from the police headquarters in Tokyo. Tokyo? Who could that be? Hello, this is Oishi. What? Oh, my, oh my. And how have you been? Oh no, it's a 9. And then they get caught up and they're like, oh yeah, I've been doing great. Oh, this is our first save of the day. 9, what the? Well, yes, you did say you would.
Thankfully, I have a timer already started up. Hanyu had grown up, has always grown being used to around. I apparently I can't read when I'm doing the little voice. Hanyu has already grown used to being around us. Since Rika-chan is ethical at her age, she's become equally close with them. Of course, Rena and Milan were always looking after her too. When Wena told me something the day Hanyu joined the class. She said that Hanyu had been close to us for a long time and that she's been watching us play. That she always wanted to join us. I still can't remember seeing her before, but somehow I can believe it. Hanyu has accepted all the things that surprised me at first. If she knew about them all along, she knows everything about us. And it seems she's truly excited about finally being able to join in. This is progress, oh no! Hanyu is definitely part of our group now. She sure is. It almost feels like she's been one of us this whole time. That can't be true though. No, it is. She's been by our side all this time. Huh? Are you saying that now too? Wena told me that a couple of days ago. Is it just that I didn't notice? It's because you're dense, Casey. Meep. Fine. So what if I'm dense? Hello. Why are you two sitting down? Are you tired? This hurts my throat. You never feel tired, Hamu. Meanwhile, we're exhausted. It's because I waited so long to be able to play with you. This isn't nearly enough. I want to play more and more. Ow. You're so full of energy. By the way, those things on your head, don't they fall when you play? Ow? Hanyu has horns on her head. I thought that was a hair accessory of sorts, so I didn't want her to lose it while playing. I was going to offer to hold it for her while she ran around. Oh, that's so nice of you, Casey. That's so kind. I'm slowly falling into a trap and I want to see just how far I can ride this. Oh no. I'm gonna redeem it for the entirety of the stream now. But Hanyu's face clouded over and she apologetically held onto her horns. Casey, Hanyu can't take them off. Eh? Ah, I see. Sorry about that. Oh, is it strange to have horns? No, not at all. I think it's cute. Yeah. Keitan even has a horn between his legs, don't you? Though it's hard and curves backwards. Blah! How? What kind of horn is between his legs? What kind? It's a fallback. It's a fallback to the first chapter when they keep talking about Keiichi's. Metatan's punch is the same. Still the one thing I can't follow. Are you quite alright, Meow-chan? There's an expression on your face. Everyone laughed except Hanyu, who didn't seem to get it. I shouldn't have said anything. I bet she doesn't like to talk about her horns. But if I try to apologize, I think things will get even more complicated. As I thought about what to say, Rena took the girls over to the shrine gate. Don't worry about it, Keiichi. Hanyu tries not to bother her, but she hasn't had enough training. Meep. So she doesn't like to talk about them, huh? Sorry, I'll be more careful. Hanyu comes to Hinamizawa a very long time ago. She did? No wonder she knows so much about the village. I don't know where she lived before she came here. She lived in the void. I asked her once, but all she said was it was a place I wouldn't understand. Hanyu said that she, or rather, Hanyu's people, couldn't live there anymore. They looked for a new place to live for a long time. They traveled a long way before arriving in Hinamizawa. There was a beautiful swamp in the area, and that was exactly what Hanyu's people were looking for. But there was a village nearby where people lived. To show respect to the original inhabitants of the area was law among wandering people like Hanyu's. Kwan was decided to live peacefully and coexist with the villagers. However, their attempts to coexist didn't go as well. The villagers were too childish and immature to accept newcomers. They were like, oh, whoops, I don't want to restart it.
They strongly rejected them and caused a terrible, tragic disaster. My throat feels weird. Hello? Okay, let me take a sip. Hanyu said that she took their form and descended upon their land in order to subdue their disaster. However, she couldn't hide her horns. The forbidden ancient documents say that Hanyu descended into Furude Shrine, appearing as she does today. It also states the following. Hanyu's people can't live anywhere other than this village. They can also only live by coexisting with the villagers. The Furude Shrine's priest once rejected them, claiming that coexistence was impossible if mixing with the wandering people's blood caused the villagers to become demons. But the young heir of the Furude Shrine fell in love with Hanyu, and when their child was born, the priest had to reconsider. Oh, wandering people can't not hide your horn. Oh, wait, no. Oh, wandering people who cannot hide your horns, if you wish to settle in this land, you wish to settle with our blood, then I shall consider granting your wish. However, as the demon's blood mixed with the villagers, it became hard to tell who was human and who was demon. The villagers began to cast suspicion on one another, haunted by that paranoia. Unless all of that was resolved, coexistence would be impossible. She lived in the void, but she got very annoyed. She wanted to leave, but that made her heave. This poem has no purpose. It's knowing I'm not Fuji. For you and us to coexist, we must lay down several laws for us to follow. They will be very strict. I am very, very sorry for imposing these upon you who have lived in peace until now. However, as long as those rules are formed, the village will be free from demonic disaster. Very well. The rules will be followed, but much blood has already been shed in the village. The anger, sins, and corruption people bear cannot be cleansed. The one law of the human world is that sins are atoned for with life. I see. If you say it's your way to let someone take on all responsibility and bury the sins with him, then we'll do that. However, wouldn't people end up pushing responsibility on each other because nobody wants to die? Exactly. That's the ugly demon in the world of man. No one will accept their own sins, but only foist them onto each other. Since they can only clear the balance with their lives, everyone refuses to pay, and the sins just keep adding up. Without cleansing them, they stagnate, and people cast them upon each other forever. doubting each other and passing them around. I see. If that is the unopposable law of this world, and you yourselves are troubled by this law, in exchange for coexisting with us, I shall grant you a world where people do not blame their sins on each other. Wish I had a horn, but I already hit my head enough to my height, so that would still be cool, yeah.
That's why I have a little thing on my horn. And keep bonking it against stuff.
What kind of world is it? So long as mankind exists, they will commit sins and give rise to corruption. How could that all be erased without foisting it onto someone else? Let me bear all the sins and corruption born from man, and purify my soul. Let all sins rest not with man. If they are born upon myself, then man will not heed to force them onto each other. What are you saying? Are you really going to make yourself into a sacrifice? Someone has to take on the sins, otherwise they won't be cleansed. That's the law of your world, isn't it? A different ancient document also states the following. Of course, it's a forbidden one, too. Only the head of the Furude family is allowed to read it. Nobody else, not even the other heads of the 3 families. It tells that unrest grew in people's minds, that the villagers' evil hearts collected in the swamp and gave rise to demons. The Furude Shrine's priest explained that the root of all evil is the demon god of the swamp, and led the young villagers there. By the swamp, they found a demon mocking the unrest in people's hearts. The young villagers fought bravely, captured the demon, and dragged it to the Furude Shrine. To live is to sin, to reject sin is to reject life. Yeah. But then, you wait until sin is in the form of either a ball or a whale, I don't know which. And then you have a shrine maiden kill that, and then you're good for a while, and then it's gonna come back, and then you have to keep sacrificing shrine maidens, and it's just this whole big deal. The priest cleansed the demon god, opened her abdomen, and dragged out her organs. He chopped them up and washed them down the stream, then threw the body in the swamp. Did I read the top thing? I don't think I did. By the swamp, they found a demon mocking the unrest in people's hearts. The young villager fought bravely, captured the demon, and dragged it into the Furude Shrine. Okay, we read that now. Then people regained their sanity. Those who had been suspicious of each other became friendly, and they all shared in the joy of peace again. If those forbidden ancient documents are real, then the object of the villagers' worship, Oyashiro-sama, was captured by the villagers, forced to bear all their sins, and torn to death. Plus, it's clearly written that the demons appeared after unrest grew in people's hearts. In other words, the demons were forced to bear the sin of discord that rested with man long before they arrived. She had to stop sinning. I would have had to stop working out so I could eat more. Right? Like, there are so many things that are sins, apparently. And people tend to focus on the weird ones where it's just like, something about your clothes, I think, was like you can't wear clothes of like mixed material, which like a majority of clothes are. So it's like, okay, you want to focus on sins? What about that? What about that, Mary? What about that cheating on your husband that you did the other week? Oyashiro-sama was the god who took people's sins to mend conflicts between them. People eventually came to honor her, and it's said that that became the foundation of faith in Oyashiro-sama. I don't understand exactly what that means, but I know one thing. When none of us humans would draw the losing straw, she offered to draw it in our stead. To prove it, we cleanse our filth by letting cotton absorb it, and drifted downstream during the Watanagashi festival. There's no shame or shifting of responsibility involved. Until that system was created, we were simply demons who pushed our filth and our responsibility on each other. We could only cleanse our own sins by blaming someone else and sacrificing him by cutting open his abdomen. And Hanyu took on that job. A purification ceremony without a human life. A system that forgives people for their sins. That is the origin of the cult of Oyashiro-sama, which blames not people for their sins, but the curse. These documents were sealed away. If they weren't, people would find out that the object of their own faith was falsely blamed and killed by their own ancestors. Hanyu apologizes. She takes in people's sins and keeps apologizing. When people can't deal with their own sins anymore, she accepts them. When Hanyu takes over, people are cleansed, and they are allowed to keep living. Demons take on sins by becoming cotton to absorb them. They are exterminated and washed down the stream, and then the village is forgiven. They are forgiven for their sins. If that's all true, then Hanyu, or rather, Oyashiro-sama, is such a tragic existence. I've asked Hanyu about this before, when she told me the following story. 4 people are stuck in a snowy mountain cabin. They play a game while each sitting in one of the 4 corners. It's a fairly well-known story. It's in the middle of winter. They're all getting sleepy. If they fall asleep, they'll die. So one of them comes up with an idea. They're sitting in the 4 corners of the room, so someone just has to walk clockwise to the next corner and wake the person sitting in that corner. The one who just walked will sit in that corner, and the one who just woke up will get up, walk to that next corner, and wake up the person sitting there. If they keep doing that, nobody will fall asleep. People who know the story won't need an explanation, but this doesn't work with 4 people. When the first person gets up, their corner becomes empty. So after everyone takes turns, the 4th person goes to the next corner, which is an empty one. They sit down and fall asleep, so the game is over right there. Everyone freezes to death. In other words, to play this game, you need more than 4 people. You need one more person in order to be saved. People usually tell this as a ghost story. They usually say that this was actually a group of 5 people, but one of them was already dead, and thanks to the ghost, they're able to continue living until the next morning. Listen here, I'm 6'9", 245 pounds, and consume 4,000 calories a day. I want to force a sin-free life, and I'm going... Don't bring me! No, don't bring anybody! Ah! But man, that's very tall. Hanyu once told me that she's like that 5th person. If she can make everything run smoothly by joining a circle of people, then it's very similar to how the telephone game in the mountain cabin manages to function without breaking. Hanyu can complete a circle that can't be realized by people alone. Then those people can live peacefully. She's an existence that completes a circle. Is she bothered by her horns because it reminds her of the time when she was called a demon and punished for the sins she took in? Is her subconscious still tormenting her with thoughts that those who have horns ought to be persecuted?
She was born with those horns. She was hated and abused because of them.
Really? I definitely shouldn't have said anything, huh?
And just because she has those horns, she had to take in everybody's sins and cleanse them. She did that, and then she was worshipped as God.
Huh? A god?
I was talking to myself. Forget about it.
Huh? Nobody knows who Hanyu really is. Is she really a divine existence that descended from a higher place? Or is she simply an unlucky girl who became a sacrifice just because she had a pair of horns? Nobody knows. But this girl's blood was blended with the Furude family's blood, and that blood has descended into me. Our legends state that if the Furude family has a girl for their firstborn child for 8 generations in a row, that 8th child will be the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm that 8th generation. Is that why I was the only person who could see Hanyu? 8 generations is a very long time. Maybe that's how long it took for all the sins Hanyu assumed to be cleared. 8 represents infinity. It's a very lucky number. Often curses uttered will contain, "I'll curse you for 7 generations," but the 8th lies beyond that. In other words, 8 possesses such good fortune that it can receive great curses and sins that span 7 generations. It's a number with power. It's the time Hanyu needed to cleanse all the sins she took in for the humans. Hanyu and her people simply wanted to coexist with us, but Hanyu had to become a sacrifice. Her stomach was cut open and its contents washed down the stream. Then she was thrown into the swamp. And so, the Furude family has been waiting. They waited for a very long time for her to come back. They kept our traditions alive, waiting for forever and ever for her return. According to legend, the name Furude was made by adding a horn to the character for fortune teller. The Furude family rose when Hanyu's bloodline was combined with that of the human beings. Hanyu is the ancestor of the Furude family, as well as the mother of us all. When I was little, Hanyu taught me a lot more things than my mother did. It's no wonder. I'm her descendant. The curse on the clan who exorcised and buried their very own mother was finally absolved after 8 generations. It seemed like eternity. Then she met me, her descendant, the final generation of the Furude family. Sometimes when I think about that, I feel like there must be some important meaning to this hapless fate thrust upon me. Funny thing I had to start doing because of my height is that I had to start speaking in a more childlike voice so people aren't intimidated, but there are people that enjoys my real voice too. that makes sense. Because I guess with the height, and if you pair it with too low of a voice, people will be like, oh, this is scary man's. Is this Yakuza? Something about that pairing. I think it's probably media stuff. That it's just like tall and deep voice equal evil. But what kind of meaning could the trial I face? The trial of breaking through the obstacles sealing my fate. Once upon the curse that plagued Hanyu and the Furude family for over a millennium. 1,000 years is simply too long a period to communicate thoughts and intentions correctly. Hanyu has become the curse we call Oyashiro-sama. Though she originally was a means of salvation, she has become a chain that binds people. The rules about coexisting were misinterpreted as a law that binds villagers to this place, and that continued until the Meiji era. And while the village winds once again blow towards the misunderstanding of isolation thanks to the dam conflict, how does that play into my meeting with Hanyu and this motley fate we're trapped in? I haven't lived long enough to be able to understand that. The one thing I can say for sure is that the Furude family originated when Hanyu's bloodline mixed with that of humans, and the fate line's final descendant, me, finally met with its ancestor. The Furude bloodline bears a cursed history of placing all of man's sins onto its mother and killing her. Now, the beginning and end of that line have met. Hanyu always wanted to join everyone, yet she couldn't hide her horns. Even so, she still wished to be an existence that completes a circle. I had to fake my laugh to become, I've been told it sounds like a typical evil laugh. Ah, I see. It's a child's job to bury their parents. But mother, I've never heard that it's a child's job to kill and bury their parents. Don't ask, child. I'm not human. My horns are proof that I'm a demon. A demon's job is to take on the calamities of the human world. Bearing the calamities of this chaotic world and cleansing the unrest in mankind's heart is my role. Then, mother, why do you have to be the one? People's sins are people's sins. They aren't yours. Listen, child. People live with their sins. They can't live without making someone else take the blame. Nobody wants to take the blame, so they shift that responsibility around. That is a demon, the true demon disrupting the world of man. By bearing it myself, man may be cleansed, but mankind can be freed from their destiny of doubt and conflict. I just do my own voice. Whether people want to watch me or not is whatever. I just like playing games and having at least one person watching me. Because I think at one point I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do a voice. But then it's just like, well, I do voices. So it makes sense for me to have my normal voice. So that way I can just kind of pitch it wherever. And so that way, I don't know. I just do voices. I let all the sins, the filth, the karna, and the curse come to me. Then attack me, purify me, wash me down the stream, and turn me in the swamp, or throw me in the swamp. A human will not do. So it is the fate of one not human to accept that role. If a human were made to bear it, then mankind would not be freed from the demon of doubt. I don't understand. I don't understand, Mother. Mother, you have horns. Are you saying that you aren't human just because you have horns? That even if you are human, the horns make you non-human? Even if you have horns, you're human to me. My child, you're the only one who's ever said that. Even if everyone else calls me or you'll still call me human. What is passed down in the Furude's many forbidden scrolls, the ones unknown to even the heads of the three families, sealed in the altar in the shrine storage? Understanding that would probably require about as much time as I've spent repeating time. Yet once you understand that, perhaps you'll better understand the smile Hanyu wears as she innocently plays with everyone.
Ah! Are you okay?
I heard Mion yell with surprise. Something must have happened. What is it? What's going on?
Hanyu-san tripped and tumbled down the hill over there. Hanyu-chan? Are you okay?
She rolled beautifully, but I hope she didn't sprain her ankle or anything. Let's go look. Hanyu had been playing on the slope and tumbled down it. There's a road just below the slope. Mion and the others went down the stairs to get to her. Let's go. I hope she isn't injured. Oh no, it's these two. Time to beat them up. Beat them up right now. Takano, I got some fighting words for you. Just, Wait. just let me, just, boom, 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 boom. Take that and that. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, anyway. When we got there, I saw Tometake-san and Takano-san. They were taking care of her. What happened? We just saw her roll down the hill. She did tumble beautifully, though. But I think she hit her head, so I'm sure she'll get a bump later. Make sure you put some ice on it, okay?
Hanyu, can you hear us? Look, how many fingers do you see?
She sounded disoriented, but didn't appear to be injured. In my read it, I'm going to dedicate a section where I break the fourth wall and stop faking my voice and laugh. Oh, that'll be fun. What a relief for everyone. I bet she's just feeling dizzy from rolling.
I'm glad you're not hurt.
Just think, though, how lucky of you to have a nurse waiting for you down here. What perfect timing. Well, I'm not working. I'm a wild bird photographer. Right, Jiro-san? Well, yeah, I guess. A Hinamizawa kid would never get hurt from something like that. In other words, you're already one of us, Hanyu. Hanyu-chan? Is that your name? I've never seen you before. Are you new around here?
Yes, she is. She transferred in just last Monday.
What are these? How peculiar. Are they some kind of toy? Takano-san tried to poke at one of Hanyu's horns. They'd be interesting hair accessories if they were an accessory.
That's what's cute about Hanyu-chan. Please don't touch them though.
Oh, is that so? I don't think they're that cute though. After all, they just look like a monster. Don't they? Takano, what the What? You're writing stories about aliens, and you're just like, wow, these horns are disgusting. Suddenly, Hanyu moaned as if suffocating.
Takano, Hanyu isn't a monster. Don't ever say that again.
That's right, Takano-san. That was mean. Sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. Rika-chan said it rather firmly. I'm sure Hanyu doesn't want to hear that word. Sometimes Takano-san says things in a derogatory way without realizing it herself. But I guess there are things you can't or shouldn't say. When has she said something rude like that? Is she just mean in this timeline? Hanyu was looking at Takano with a complicated look on her face. After seeing that expression, Takano-san realized she might have hurt her feelings. She apologized and left with Tometake-san.
Are you okay, Hanyu? You landed beautifully too, so you're not injured. Rika? What person? Alright? That's Takano. Takano.
Hanyu repeated Takano-san's name. All of a sudden, I grew worried that she hit her head or something. Hanyu stood straight up and grabbed Rika-chan's collar. Rika!
Rika? Oh. It's Takano! Takano!
That's right. She's Takano.
No, Rika! Takano! Don't you remember?
I know. Mio Takano, right? From the Erie Clinic.
You can't remember?
Sorry, Hanyu. What are you talking about?
Rika, this can't be.
This is the last one. The last one. She finally imprinted herself with the true enemy's name while enduring the pain of her stomach being cut open. And yet she can't remember. Rika Furude has failed to inherit the memory of the fragments. We went through all that work. And she couldn't remember it. But at least Hanyu's here. She straight up can be like,
Rika, no, like, seriously, you need to do this. Takano is gonna unalive you. Like, she's gonna unalive literally everybody. You need to do this. This is what's going down.
oh, Akasaka-san. Long time no see. Oishi-san, you haven't changed a bit. What are you saying? I've been on an apple diet lately, and I've lost a few pounds. Can't you tell? But just look at you. You look great. Well, I have to stay in shape for my job. Hey, Kura-chan. Is this the guy? The one who came here a few years ago from Tokyo? Nice to see you again, too, Hondaya-san. It has been a while. My, look at you. It must be nice to be so young. Higurashi when they not cry because it's not entitled. Yeah.
Also, how you doing, Yuru? It's been a while.
Well, since you came on such a long way, let's just head to a restaurant. I'm a regular there, so I'm sure we can get in before it opens. Come on. Hoishi-san, are you sure? Don't you still have some work to do? What? Not at all. I'm on special training with a mission investigator from Tokyo headquarters. Come on, let's get going. Oh wait, I've got to make a phone call first. They're greenhorns compared to someone like you. But I've put some more help together for us. Ah, there you are. Kuma-chan, do you want to come play with us tonight? Oishi-san, you really haven't changed a bit. Akasaka used to think Oishi wasn't serious enough about work, but after experiencing many different things in the real world, that preconception had completely disappeared. Oishi is that way because of his existence. It's not always best to take things seriously. In this world, sometimes being that frank can help. In Akasaka's case, people often tell him to relax more, but in Oishi's case, maybe he could straighten out a little. Come on, Akasaka-san, let's go. Yes, at once. Yeah, good answer. You sound like a veteran police officer now. Glad to hear it. The old Akasaka would have thought Oishi was making fun of him, but by now he could take it as an honest assessment. Oh gosh, are they gonna play Mahjong again? Boy, you sure can drink now, Akasaka-san. Don't think I can keep up with you. Must be true that when one gets old, he can't drink as much as before. You're too modest. I'm just better because of an intelligence officer has to be able to hold his liquor. I have a budget set aside at all times for training with my young colleagues. Japanese sake, Western liquor, Chinese liquor, whatever. Sometimes I drink a little at little bars and sometimes at expensive clubs. That sounds pretty good. I'll have to join you to coach them sometime. Yes, please come teach us your tricks. Young guys nowadays often talk about how they can't drink. I can't drink at all at first, you know. The more you drink, the better your body adjusts to alcohol, and the more you enjoy drinking. No, I don't wanna. That's right. Are you listening, Kuma-chan? Yes, I heard. I can down quite a few now. No, really, you're right. When you first teamed up with Oishi, you were already drinking oolong tea with the toast. That's no good. A toast has a very important meaning. If you don't drink any alcohol, you're saying you're not satisfied at the party. So when I see young people like that, I tell them, I'm not saying you don't have to drink up in one gulp, but your first round has to at least be a medium mug. I guess I'm gonna disrespect any party I'm at. Ha! That's true, I can't drink. Right? It's just like, oh yeah, I'm not satisfied because, you know, I'm never gonna be satisfied until I get the blood on my face. Where did I go with that? When Akasaka first came to Okinomiya, he was very nervous, but there was no trace of that tension left in him. Seeing that, Oishi realized just how much Akasaka had learned in the past few years. There you go, Akasaka-san. Man, you've really grown a lot more dependable. During the years I've been waiting to retire, you've grown so much. It might be time for the younger generation to take over, huh? That's not true. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that the only thing that matters is experience. Leave the hard labor and the crime scenes to us young officers, while you veterans take pride at your desks and work us to the bone. Did you hear that, Kuma-chan? Did you? Okay, I heard him. I'll give it everything I've got. Testing was invented, so if one person was poisoned, everyone dies too. Ah. Alcohol bad, apple juice good. Yes.
The closest I'll get to is apple cider, but that's non-alcoholic. It just go fizzy. Fizzy apple juice.
Oishi, Kumagai-kun is already giving it everything he's got. He's diligent about his patrols to make up for your distaste for them. You know how Oishi-san is, right? I've only worked for him for a few days, but I understand what you're going through. Even so, he'll make you into a good cop. Just believe in him. Yes, sir. I'll do my best. But even if I learn how to drink, I can't learn how to be good at mahjong. Oishi-san takes all of my pay before I can give it to my wife. Mahjong is intellectual baggage you need. The more you play, the more confident you get. Let's play it together. Later. I'll teach you how not to lose. Pardon me, I am so sorry. Oishi, he's a good guy, huh? Kind of reminds me of how you were when you were young. That can't be. I wasn't nearly as handsome. It was unusual for Oishi to enjoy anyone's company this much. Akasaka and Oishi only worked together for a few days. They had exchanged some holiday card sends, but that was about it. Oishi had no idea how happy it would make him to see a greenhorn grow into a dependable cop. Oishi always thought he wanted to be active until the day he retired. But after seeing such a dependable colleague, he began to think about maybe it was time for him to step down. Oishi and Akasaka enjoyed their reunion more than they thought they would. To enjoy life. just friendly flirting against bro cops. The owner of the place was bringing the electric sign inside. All the chairs were up on the tables, and the owner's wife was cleaning the floor. My heart is dark green now, expert in honed. Yeah. There was nobody else around. Judging by the clock, it was almost 3 a.m. This is the reunion, right, Koma-chan? Take your time, okay? Just wake me up when you leave so I can lock the door. Sorry about this. Thank you. There wouldn't be anything else open at at such a late hour. Oishi and his colleagues still wanted to talk, so they decided to stay. Kumagai couldn't fight his sleepiness and was nodding off. They were talking about Akasaka's job. Akasaka works at a department specializing in public safety. Oishi and the others were interested in all his stories of danger and bravery. Anyway, I want to meet with Urika Furude. By Urika Furude, you mean the orphaned daughter of the Furude family? Orphaned? What happened to her parents? Urika Furude had predicted that there would be an incident in Hinamizawa every year for the following 5 years. Her parents, according to her, were supposed to be killed on the 3rd year running. Hey, bro, how come if you think you're cute, I'm going to make you feel
right? You gotta make the homies feel good.
Yeah, it was the 3rd year of the curse of Yashida-sama. 1981 must have been. The Furude couple died rather suspiciously. It was 3 years after you came to Hinamizawa, Akasaka-san. 3 years? Did it happen in June? 3 years after I visited? Yeah, that was about right. Why? Is there something about it that bothers you? Akasaka shut his eyes tightly and to chase away the alcohol in his brain and try to remember the girl's prediction. He had, after all, come here to confirm it. I came here in 1978. And what about the dam construction site manager? Oh, that's the guy I played mahjong with. How has he been doing? It was in the newspaper, I think. Maybe it was just in the local news. Well, he was killed in a fight with the other workers that year. Rika Furude had predicted that he'd been killed in a gruesome way, and that his body would be dismembered. Was he mutilated? See, you know about it already. That's exactly it. His right arm is still missing, too. So unfortunate. The following year, on the same day, in June 1980, Satsuko's parents will be pushed to their deaths. Maybe it should be called an accident. A lamentable accident. I'll continue. The following year, the year after the manager's death, I think... let's see... I know. Satsuko-san, it was. I think she's a little girl. Did her parents die in an accident? Oh, how much do you already know? That's right. The dam supporters, the Hojo couple, fell off a cliff while on vacation, though it still hasn't been confirmed it was an accident or an incident. And the following year, on the same day, in June 1981, my parents will be killed. And the following year... Yes, Rika Furude's parents died, but none of those incidents make sense. You sure know a lot about the curse of Oyashiro-sama. None of those incidents were made public because of the pressure from the locals, so I'm surprised at how much you know about them. I can't believe this. But even you can't know about the following year, because starting with the 4th year in a row, we decided to investigate secretly. I think I know about it anyway. And the following year, on the same day, in June 1982, Satsuko's mean aunt will die. Her head will be smashed in. The following year, so that was last year, Satsuko-san from earlier, wasn't her aunt beaten to death? Shit, you're right. Akasaka-san, how much do you know? Or how do you know so much? I think I know who will be killed after the year after that. What are you saying? Besides, the year after last year means it's this year. I'll be killed. If you need stuff done, come down to cool the Superman. Smashed in with a tractor. I'm pretty sure the tractor thing is for a different series. Because I don't remember there being a tractor in Hinamizawa. It'll be in June 1983. In other words, this month, Rika Furude will be killed. Oshi and the others were at a loss for words. Akasaka had talked about the 4 mysterious incidents. Although he had been far away, he belonged to a very special unit of public safety. It could have been possible for him to find out about their secret investigations. That was why it wasn't that odd for Akasaka to mention the series of mysterious deaths, even though he had been far away from Hinamizawa. However, not only did he not know about them, he also named the next victim. Oishi and his co-workers had sobered up entirely. Akasaka-san, it's getting late. We're all exhausted, so let me get to the bottom of this. What is it that you're trying to say? Okay, all of this was what she told me when I was in Hinamizawa of June 1978. What? Oishi couldn't believe what he was hearing. He was left speechless. I know it's hard to believe. When she told me back then, I thought she was being a mischievous little girl, but she told me she was going to be killed in the 5th year running. In other words, she asked me to help her, I think. The main purpose of my visit to Hinamizawa this time is to find her and ask her if she still needs my help. Akasaka-san, I'm retiring this year. I want to take revenge on the people who killed the manager of the 1st year. I'll jump on any lead I can find. So let me just confirm this with you. What you just said isn't a joke, is it? If it is, you had better tell me right now. I'm telling you the truth. Rika Furude told me this in June 1978, but at the time, I didn't think anything of it, so I didn't tell you about it. I'm very sorry. No, you didn't know. Even if you had told me, I don't think I would have believed you. Only because it happened 4 years in a row do we believe you now. Oishi must have been thinking that if only Akasaka had told him that back then, he could have saved his friend. But what the old man from forensics just said was right too. Oishi wouldn't have believed him back then, and his friend would have died anyway, and Oishi would have been left with regret at not being able to do anything. I remember a very green-haired girl getting her left arm crushed by one tractor and her head getting crushed by a second tractor. I feel like... Because that would have been like Mion or Shion, but I feel like if that happened, it would have happened already. Because this is the one where they survive, I'm pretty sure. Unless that's only in the secret ending. That's true. I should be the one apologizing. Still, Rika Furude. Why Rika Furude? I don't know exactly what's going on in Hinamizawa right now. I read in the papers that the dam construction plan was halted indefinitely. That's why I assumed Hinamizawa was peaceful now. The dam conflict is over, yeah, but starting the following year, these mysterious deaths, known locally as the Curse of Oyashida-sama, started to occur annually. I think I accidentally switched who's talking. Yeah, I don't remember that in the anime, so I feel like it might be somebody else, but I'm not sure. And it played out just like you said. I think she's entrusted me with something extremely important. Oishi-san, let me ask you, do you think it's possible for Furude to be killed this year? They say that the Furude couple was held in low regard for being so passive during the dam conflict. That might be the reason why the curse fell upon them in the 3rd year, so I do think that Rika Furude's death is possible, isn't it? Oishi nodded slowly. I'm going to try and get in touch with Rika Furude tomorrow. I think the best thing to do is to talk to her directly. Can I come with you, Akasaka-san? This story about Rika Furude sounds like something very important for me, too. My. You've come bearing quite the incredible gift. I'm getting a bit intrigued myself. I never thought I'd see the day when all the mysteries were solved. Well, I have some questions, too. For instance, why did she tell me something that important? If she wanted help, why didn't she ask the local police? Why me, a guy on a business trip from Tokyo? I bet she doesn't have faith in the local police. I'm a little unrefined. Rika-san probably doesn't trust me. Besides, there are people with connections to the Sonozaki family at Okinomiya PD. Maybe thinking of another anime, but yeah, maybe that's what was brought up previously. But like, I don't know about Shiki, so I can't be like, I don't know. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't Higurashi. In other words, she trusted me, the guy who came from Tokyo, more than anybody. Yeah, I guess. If that's the case, Oishi-san, please don't tell anybody else about this. Of course, I won't. Anyway, let's head directly to Hinamizawa tomorrow and have a talk with Rika-san. We can start from there. She's pink hair, but looks like she gets crushed that way. Very interesting. Unless there's like, her skin is green? What? Huh? Man, that seems like a wild time.
It's hard to believe, but it's the truth, isn't it?
It was in the middle of the night. Only the sounds of insects and Satoko snoring could be heard. Rika was sitting by her favorite window.
Yes, Takano is the one who killed you, Rika. You and I both saw it. I tried so hard to remember Takano's face. Even as she cut your stomach open, you burnt her face into your memory while enduring all that pain.
That's a horrible way to die. I'm glad I don't remember, but I can see it. That's the kind of death Takano would prefer.
Ow.
Still, I don't get it. Why would Takano kill me? I'm the Queen Carrier, and if I die, a disaster will occur, right? Isn't that why the Iri Institute and the Mountain Dogs are protecting me? Then why would Takano, their leader, have me killed?
Ow.
Sorry, that was a useless question. Takano killed me. That's the truth, and her motive doesn't matter, does it? But still. Shiki, I think, had to do with vampires, so undead. I think vampires, yeah. I think so too. I remember watching, like, the first episode. like years ago. But still, why Takano? Although she just said that the motive didn't matter, Rika went back to the same question. The reason why Takano was protecting the Queen Carrier wasn't because she wanted to prevent the rest of Hinamizawa from developing the syndrome. It was because the Queen Carrier was extremely valuable subject for her research. I think I was watching when Funimation was on a Man on Comcast years ago. Oh my gosh. I think I watched... When did it come out? Because I think I was in school still, but I can't remember. Then, considering that value, why did she kill the Queen Carrier with her own 2 hands? Is Takano my only enemy?
Oh, the Mountain Dogs are after you too. I don't know if Yeti is your enemy or not, but I don't think he is.
Takano and the Mountain Dogs are my enemies? You've got to be kidding me. How can we possibly win? There's no way. Unless there's a miracle of some kind, we can't fight against people like them. Besides, Watanagashi is this Sunday. I'll be killed by the 22nd. It's in about a week or so, right? How can I beat them in such a short amount of time? Should we try going after Takano with a metal bat? That won't work. She's only one of them. Even if we take her out, the mountain dogs will still get us. What do we do? What should we do? A fate go if I was wanting to gently ask someone to add my grandfather to the game as a summonable hero. Would I have to ask? I don't know. I know of fate, but I don't know anything else. I know Padoru, which I think you said was Neo, who looks like Saber. And I think Astolfo is there, right? That's it. So yeah, you'd probably have to ask somebody in Japan to add your grandfather in the game. I don't know.
I don't know either, but we didn't know our enemy before now. This time, we do. There must be something we can do.
This was the first time in a long time that Hanyu had spoken so positively. Vika was startled for a moment and realized that she was losing her cool. She took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. She was still confused that Takano was the culprit. Vika had always thought of Takano as her ally. There were, after all, many reasons why Takano should treat her well. Vika couldn't even think of one reason why Takano would want to kill her. Still, Takano was always thinking about bizarre things. There was no guarantee that a crazy idea of hers couldn't become a motive.
So that means if Tomataka is killed, then is he an ally? I think he is. That's an idea, Rika. You should talk to Tomatake.
Takano was accompanied by the mountain dogs because of an organization named Tokyo. So could Rika ask for help only from someone affiliated with that organization? In that case, Tomataka was the only one she could talk to about the issue. Although Iri might also be worth having a talk with. The reason why I'm fighting to add my grandfather is because this man thumb-tackled 10,000 cockroaches to a hotel room just to prove there was a bad infestation. Oh right, I remember you telling me about that. How this is a tamer stunt he pulled. Yeah! So, he'd probably want to contact the creator of Fates and be like, hey, I got the perfect old man for you to add. But I don't know who made Fates. But then, that was why she needed to know. She needed to know why Takano wanted to kill her. Unless she could explain that, they probably wouldn't even believe her. Besides, Tomatake was in love with Takano. He wouldn't doubt her so easily. Iri seemed to be keeping a little distance from Takano. He might be a little more inclined to believe. But as someone who was simply a doctor, he knew little about Tokyo. He might end up being useless to Rika. Then, should she call the police? No way, definitely no way. There was no way that they would believe her. If she were to make a call and say that a strange organization named Tokyo was trying to kill her, they would think she was crazy. Then, what could she do? How could she save herself? The scariest people in Hinamizawa were coming to kill her. How could she run from them? How could she fight them? How? If she had remembered the scene of Takano killing her, then she wouldn't have been so confused, because seeing is believing, but she didn't remember. This was just what Hanyu was telling her. She didn't want Takano to be her enemy. This was the truth that she didn't want to accept, so she was tempted to just say that this was all simply Hanyu's delusion. Oh no, Hanyu's invisible. No, I'm gonna make this a thing, even if I have to do it by myself. Yeah.
Calm down, Nika. We learned in our past life. Don't you remember the previous world?
The previous world? Do you mean the one where Rena spread gasoline all over the school and locked everyone inside?
No. The world after that. Don't you remember? In that world, he came back. Tepe Hojo did.
That's the worst possible world. No matter what we do, the counselors won't do anything. Satoko goes insane within a few days. Someone from our circle of friends developed the syndrome and attacked Tepe, right?
No. In the previous world, we all went to the Child Consultation Center and saved Satoko. In that world, Kichi taught you so much. He taught you that you have to believe, otherwise a miracle won't occur. And he also said that if everyone believes, our wishes will definitely come true.
That sure is something Keiichi would say. But that's great. To defeat a world where Tepe returns. We couldn't do anything about that world even once before.
Do you know how Kichi and the others in the world made a miracle happen? They talked to everyone. They didn't convince themselves that it was useless or agonize over it by themselves. They asked everyone for help. That's how they brought about the miracle.
Everyone? You want me to talk to Keiichi and the others about Takano? Do you really think they would believe me if I told them an organization like Tokyo is after me?
Yes, they will. They did in the previous world. Why won't you believe me, Rika?
Sorry. It's not that I don't believe you. You saw it, so it's the truth, isn't it? I had no idea how frustrating it would be to not remember it myself.
Anyway, you and me are going on about this won't solve anything. We don't have enough power on our own. But we have our weapon. That weapon is the truth. We don't know her motive, but we know that the culprit is Takano. So this is a very good start compared to all the other worlds. But why? Why can't you remember it at the very end?
Hanyu ground her teeth remorsefully. She saw the truth just a short time ago, so she couldn't believe that Rika didn't remember anything. If it was something she had seen herself, then she wouldn't even need a motive. But she hadn't, and that was why she couldn't understand. Why was her memory missing even when Hanyu's memory was still intact? Did that mean their long journey was about to end? Perhaps her infinitely repeating journey was already over, and this was the last world of all.
I
thought this world was odd, since everyone could see you, and you even transferred to our school. But now I can really see how strange this world of a world this is.
There's nothing strange about it. It's just the final world, that's all. I came to this final world so we could all gather all our powers. I'm not a bystander here. I'm your ally.
I see. You're no longer a bystander, huh?
I've decided not to be afraid anymore. I'm not afraid, and I'm going to believe with all of you. And a miracle will happen. This is a world where we can bet on. This June of 1983. Rika and Takano are fighting. If Rika doesn't understand her enemy in time, she will lose. Takano has many powerful pieces like the mountain dogs. Rika will need a lot more pieces to be able to defeat her. So unless Rika asks for help from many people and gathers an equal number of pieces, the game won't even begin. We've learned the rules of this game board by playing the game repeatedly. It's just a game without a manual. But we've learned the rules and now we know how to fight. We're ahead of the game because we already know what pieces our enemy has. Rika, you have to get busy. We only have 1 week before Watanagashi. We have 2 weeks in the previous world, but we only have 1 week in this one. In other words, this is our final chance.
Okay. Rather than grieving over what I don't remember, I should be grateful that you do. Because if you didn't, this final world would end while we ran about in confusion. Also, if I talk to Keiichi and the others in the right way, maybe they'll come up with some good ideas. Because he was the one who fought with Vena in the previous world, and when the school was about to explode, he brought her back.
Exactly. Anyway, let's go talk with anyone we can find. We are too weak by ourselves. Let's gather people and think about what to do. We have to take our first steps towards the miracle.
We have to do that within a week. Hanyu had never encouraged her like this before. She had always pretended to be a bystander. She never wanted to go through the pain of failure, so she never had expectations for anything. But now she was trying to intervene with this world so passionately and proactively. According to Hanyu, there had been another world after one in which Rena occupied the school. Apparently, Keiichi really inspired her in that world. Rika had nothing to lose. She had to talk to whoever she thought she could trust. And whether she tried or not, she had only a very short time left. She decided to do whatever she possibly could until that time arrived. She would never again act like it was cool to sip wine pretending to be a witch as the end closed upon her. What would the end of Infinity look like? Ooh.
Our
look really cool. Like, gosh, I'm visualizing it, but I can't express what it looks like. Well, no, you guys know I have a fizzy drink now. But like, I guess if you had a black hole in a kaleidoscope, I feel like that's the best way of describing it, of how I'm visualizing it. Hello, it's been a while. This is Nomura. Yes, thank you for the detailed documents from the other day. Thanks to that data, men from the Ministry of Health and Welfare now understand how dangerous Hinamizawa syndrome is. That's the accomplishment for you and the late Dr. Takano. I've only made sure that you've received your fair assessment is all. Anyway, I'll make sure the Prime Minister reads your documents. He's our leader after all. I'll have the most important person in this country read your article and make sure he understands what important research this is and why Hinamizawa syndrome is an issue that needs his attention. Also, I'll make sure the present board of directors realize how stupid they were to ignore your research and ridicule your grandfather's thesis. Indeed. I have great news for you. We've decided that after the operation is completed, the actual location will be isolated and shut down, and another department of the SDF will take over the research. You'll be welcome there, and you'll be able to continue your research for as long as you want without worrying about political factions or funding. That's all thanks to your generous client who wants to reward you for your hard work. You'll be given the position of director, so you can devote yourself to your research. Isn't that wonderful? Finally, you'll be able to accomplish something that overturns common knowledge by researching Hinamizawa syndrome and the existence of parasites that influence human thought. No, I'm not just saying that to flatter you. That's what we really think. I see. Sorry to take up your time. I'll be going now. I'll get in touch with you again. Okay, who is this mystery woman? I really hope that it shows us. There's a photo of my grandfather in a Kansas museum, and the story was the photographer came to my grandfather's old telephone company when he was there visiting my father, and the photographer asked if he could take a photo of a line worker up on the telephone pole. So my grandfather, at age 68, past retirement, grabbed his old gear and climbed a phone pole just because he saw problem. Aha! He does seem like a really neat dude. The woman put down the handset on her car phone, and then she picked it up again and made another call. Please transfer me to extension 1001. Yes, this is Watanabe. Watanabe. Yes, the issue from the other day has been taken care of. Yes, Major Takano's documents are wonderful. I made some people from the National Research Center go along, so the men believed it without question. Yes, that's no problem either. Most of the cabinet ministers from enemy factions will be either leaving the country or going on vacation, so they'll be out of Tokyo after the 20th. Yes. There are still some unsettled issues, but everything will be set by June 23rd. Yes. Therefore, the on-site operation will take place at midnight on June 22nd. The Prime Minister will be asked for emergency sanctions on the 23rd. Yes, everyone aiding the Prime Minister on that day will be our people. We won't even question a thing. Yes, I'm certain. The Prime Minister will definitely sign Emergency Manual 34. Afterwards, an investigation into Alphabet's duties will be taken up, and the Okuno, Chiba, and Old Koizumi factions will lose a great deal of sway. Yes, that's right. It's only a matter of time before we succeed with the Asian Amity and Reconstruction Summit. That's true. There's no money to spend on the developing domestic nuclear arms or Japanese-American alliance spanning the Pacific. Then it would be more profitable for our nation to spend it on ODA towards China. The 21st century will be the era of China, and with our nation claiming a good portion of the world's population, Japan gets nothing out of wagging its tail for the US anymore. Yes, I know. The 21st century is almost here, yet we're still saying that communism is the greatest evil. Maybe we've been watching too many bad American propaganda movies. Yes, I understand. Okay, then I'll see you in Macau next week. Yes, I love to gamble. Yes, it was nice talking to you. I'll get in touch with you soon. The woman put down the handset and her car phone and took a breath. She smiled in satisfaction and then picked up the handset again. Ma'am, you are making too many calls. Going to church with him was a different story because I didn't know that he liked driving, so we'd make it to church 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, but the drive home would be about 7 hours, and he never took the same path twice. I always thought there was a faster way to get home from church. Maybe he just wanted to see the scenery or just something. He probably had a reason. Give me the chief cabinet security, please. Yes, this is Maizawa. Man, I need to look up the names, because she's more than likely using fake names, I think. Higurashi Watanabe? Okay, when I searched up Watanabe, that's the artist for the new series. Maizawa. Okay. Oh, the blonde, the gray-haired lady. Okay. Hopefully she gets this right somewhere here. Yes, it's me, Chief Okuno. Okay. So her real name is Okuno. I really hope they show her to us. I don't remember what happens. Man, do we? Let me save real quick. Of course. Do we have any tips? We have no tips. This chapter has not given us a single tip.
My snoot is itchy. My snoot.
Well, I've only lived in Kansas for 4 years, but I am more familiar with the Kansas landscape than I am with Colorado.
I haven't been to either of those states. Whatever is going on? Rika, you aren't behaving normally this morning. Do you think so? Am I acting strange? I don't know how to say it, but you seem much more mature today. Ow. Rika's being mature. Ow. Hanya, don't tease me today. You too, Satoko. Please don't mess around. I don't feel like it. About a week, counting from today, huh?
Satoko gave me a perplexed look. Maybe she thought I didn't feel well. I want to talk to Keiichi and the others, including Satoko, but I don't know how or where to begin. We all like to joke around a lot, so they might not take me seriously. How can I get them to understand the danger I'm in?
Good morning to you, Chie-sensei. Oh, you're here as well, Coach. Good morning to you, too.
Good morning, Satoko-chan, Rika-chan. Oh my. Is that a headband for maids that you're wearing? That's against the school regulations. You'll be punished. Dr. Iri, stop acting like that at school. Come up to Colorado at something.
Maybe one day. I don't really travel all that much, so...
Maybe one day I'll have an opportunity to go to Colorado.
Coach, Rika doesn't seem to be feeling well this morning. Might you check her over, please?
Oh, what's the matter? Did you catch a cold? I still don't know how to tell my friends, but Iri at least is on our side. Maybe I can talk to him a bit more directly. If I keep thinking about it, I'll still be thinking at the end of the day. Maybe I'll start with him. Hanyu nodded, as if saying that was a good idea.
Hello, Satoko. Let's play a trick on Keiichi. Let's do something to his chair. Oh. Please, it's a trap, not a trick. I'll teach you how to set a trap for Keiichi-san. Ow.
Hanyu and Satoko ran to the classroom. Hanyu must have left on purpose. I have to use this chance she's given me.
Iri, can I talk to you in the nurse's office?
Sure, that's fine. Let's go there. Iri probably thinks I'm going to talk to him about Hinamizawa syndrome, so he agreed to go somewhere people couldn't hear. If there's any change in my physical condition, it could be a sign of something serious. Even if it's just a simple cold, Iri is very concerned about my health. What's wrong? Are you feeling sick?
Iri, I'm going to tell you something odd, but I want you to take it seriously. It's a very important matter.
I gave Edie the sternest look I've ever shown him as I spoke. Edie usually acts like an idiot, but he can be an adult when he needs to be. Seeing the expression on my face, Edie started to look more grave himself. How do I start? Okay.
Edie, I'm the Queen Carrier, right?
Yes, the parasite that lives in your body is different from everybody else's.
What happens if I die?
Like I told you before, something terrible will happen. No, to be precise, we believe something terrible will happen. After all, it's impossible to verify until you die. However, several cases involving social brain parasites similar to those of the Hinamizawa syndrome have shown that the death of the Queen Carrier can cause mass suicides or riots. That would be Takano-san's area of expertise. Maybe you should talk to her instead. I don't know about it much myself. In other words, Takano knows better than anybody that if I die, something terrible will happen. More than ever, I don't know why Takano wants to kill me. At the very least, you have to come see the bronze Bronco statue in the Denver airport. It's 90% rusted, but the family jewels family jewels are weird. The only parts that haven't rusted. Oh, I see. I was like, what kind of, huh? And it's like, oh. Maybe one day. I know a lot of like connecting flights for stuff is in Texas, I think. I think Texas is like a main midway point for flying. But I don't fly too much either for planes, so I don't know. There's no way I can figure it out myself. Edie's here with me right now. Maybe he'll know. I should ask him.
Edie, please don't ask any questions. Just answer. Would there be something to gain from killing me?
What? Kill you, Rika-san? Who would—
Edie, you aren't supposed to ask any questions, remember?
Sorry. No, I can't think of anything. There isn't anyone who would benefit from your death. I repeat, if something happens to the Queen Carrier, all infected persons will reach the terminal stage within 48 hours. That's what makes the syndrome so dangerous. The scale of the disaster will be far greater than any individual case of paranoia or psychosis.
Would anyone profit from that disaster?
No way. Killing you is tantamount to killing all 2,000 villagers. Nobody would consider that for a minute, even as a joke.
If I die, all the residents of Hinamizawa will go insane and may even kill each other. What a perfect ending for people who are descended from demons, huh?
Could that be what Takano wants? Since she always talks about dangerous and bizarre things, it's obvious she enjoys cruelty. She always talks about how she wants to witness, with her own eyes, the raw brutality of the man-eating demons she's read about in the dark history of Onigafuchi Village. It's possible that she wants me dead just so that all the villagers will develop terminal symptoms. If you come here, you have to let me know. I'll give you a statewide trip. Oh my gosh. Perhaps. Of course, that's the worst case. So, if something happens to you, there's an emergency measure we're supposed to follow.
An emergency measure? I've never heard of anything like that.
I've never told you about this before. It's rather an unpleasant measure, so that's why I've never mentioned it. The 80 Institute's top priority is protecting the Queen Carrier, but if you die and all infected persons develop terminal symptoms, we're supposed to go ahead with this contingency plan. It's understandable. If all 2,000 villagers were to go insane, there would be no guarantee that the devastation would remain within the village. Obviously, it's a good idea to be prepared for the worst-case scenario. There are things called emergency manuals, and amongst them, the one for the worst possible disaster, in other words, in the event of your death, is called Emergency Manual 34.
What happens with that?
Before all the villagers go insane, they'll be exterminated. To be exact, a special unit from the Self-Defense Force will seal off Hinamizawa and kill the villagers using poisonous gas.
I've never heard of that before, either.
Sorry, I don't really like talking about it. But hear me out, if you want to destroy a village for an illegal dam, you have to kill villagers to build it without people knowing. True. Maybe. Can you imagine? This whole thing is just so that they can build the dam. Because it's been put on indefinite hiatus. And then they didn't stop it. Oh my gosh. I don't know if that's the case, but it's just like, imagine they just build the dam after unaliving everybody. I've been interested in things that happen before I die, but not in things that happen after I'm dead. This disaster only takes place after I die. I had no idea that something like this occurs every single time. Or rather, I'm the cause. If the enemy is capable of erasing an entire village, then killing a little girl like me won't be a problem at all. Hanya is telling me to just talk to everyone, but can I really stand against an opponent like that? Anyway, the existence of this emergency manual changes everything. Takano's motive no longer makes sense. People have done worse for less, that's true. That is 100% true. I thought her goal was for all the villagers to go mad and slaughter each other like demons, but according to what Iri said, that wouldn't even happen. The villagers will all be killed before it does. I'm not Takano, so I can't be sure, but I don't think that would be fun for her. It doesn't make sense to kill me for that purpose, especially since we've known each other for such a long time.
You think it's possible for Takano and the Mountain Dogs to kill me?
Don't be stupid. That's just impossible. Takano-san's #1 priority is to protect you, and one of the Mountain Dog's main duties is to watch over you. That's simply unthinkable.
Iri, even so, supposing Takano wanted to kill me, can you think of a motive for her to doing so?
No, I can't. She knows better than anybody about the dangers of a queen carrier. Besides, as you're well aware, she's very passionate about her research in the syndrome. Killing you would put an end to that source of her passion.
But Iri, hypothetically, Hinamizawa syndrome is supposed to be eradicated within 3 years, isn't it? In other words, you're going to destroy the disease. What does Takano think about that?
Well, Hinamizawa syndrome is the target of treatment for me, but for Takano-san, it's research material. Actually, she's strongly against the plan to eradicate it within 3 years, and she has even made a trip to Tokyo to request an indefinite extension on the project from the board of directors. She wasn't successful, though.
So what you're saying is that Takano wants to continue her research, but Hinamizawa syndrome is going to be eradicated within 3 years. So Takano is about to lose the subject of her research, isn't she?
I guess you can say that. I think I see something here. The Iri Institute isn't a small organization. It's being managed by a lot of people and it receives a great deal of funding. It's the only way that they can even research the syndrome. So if the Iri Institute is planning to put an end to the research within 3 years, there really isn't much Takano can do about it.
If it's all going to end anyways, then maybe she wants to shake things up.
No way. Something like that can't possibly happen.
But you know how she is, right? She would do it. She would kill me if she wanted to. Don't you think?
No way. No way. Something as horrible as that just isn't possible. I feel like I'm starting to see Takano's motive, but it seems like there must be more. After all, the project will continue for at least 3 additional years. It's possible that during those 3 years, Takano's request will be approved, and their research will get an extension. In other words, the research is guaranteed to continue for a minimum of 3 more years. Given those 3 years, why is she so desperate now? Besides, I'm always killed in June 1983. The date may change a bit, but the month won't. That must be the result of her strong willpower. It must be one thing if her research was being terminated immediately. She still has 3 years, yet she's already getting desperate. Her motive is too weak. She must be possessed by a strong conviction that has to be in June 1983. After that, no matter how I questioned Iri, he kept repeating that there was no way Takano would kill me, so I didn't see how he could be any more help. Let's see. There's a town in Pennsylvania that has gone to ruin because of illegal trash disposal that caught an underground coal vein on fire and it's still burning to the... No! Really? Oh no. Heck, I feel like... Wait, is that the... I'm thinking of like the pipes in that one town. I can't remember where it was, but I remember back when I was like frequently on Tumblr, like that town hadn't gotten clean water for like a year. Man. However, if I'm able to explain Takano's motive, then I think he will be my ally. But for now, I think this is all I can do with him. I'm going to talk to Tometake too. Tometake is a lot closer to Tokyo than Iri is. Maybe he can tell me something Iri can't. I hope I can learn some important things from him too, enough to convince him that Takano has a strong enough motive to kill me. Tomitaka should be visiting Hinamizawa around this time. He spends a lot of time with Takano, but he often takes walks by himself to enjoy photographing birds too. I'll try finding him when he's not with Takano and talking with him too. Although Tomitake does have strong feelings towards Takano, I'm worried he won't listen to me as seriously as Yuri did.
Thank you very much. I'm going back to the classroom. If you find something out about Takano, please let me know.
Rika-chan, why do you think Takano-san is trying to kill you? You haven't developed symptoms. Have you?
If you're doubting me, then would you like to run a test right now?
I said some terrible things out of the blue, so I don't blame him for becoming suspicious. However, thanks to a rapid diagnostic test Yuri had developed at this point, it was easy to prove with a syringe. I just had to submit to the needle to show that I hadn't developed terminal symptoms. The results were negative, of course. It's just impossible for Takano-san to... Just impossible! Maybe now Yuri believes that there's a possibility that Takano is trying to kill me. I left the nurse's office. I hope Yuri will grow curious about Takano and try to find something out about her.
So how was it, Rika? Did you find anything?
Well, yes and no. It's hard to say, but there are a couple interesting things. One is about how Iri Institute is trying to eradicate the syndrome within 3 years. Takano doesn't like the idea. She went to Tokyo to petition for the continuation of her research, but they refused. That might cause her to become desperate. The second is the thing called Emergency Manual 34. Supposedly, if I die, that will be executed and the whole village will be murdered by poisonous gas.
Hello.
They say that when I die, the villagers will develop terminal symptoms, right? First, I thought that Takano wants me dead because she wants to see what happens, but since there is such an emergency manual, the village will be gone long before then. So that can't be her motive. Every time I ask Iri, all he says that it isn't possible. According to him, Takano understands the importance of the situation better than anybody. Therefore, she doesn't have any reason to kill me.
Hello.
I know. I've only asked Iri so far. It's possible we can learn more information or wisdom from other people, too.
That's right. Unless we bring everyone's power together, a miracle won't occur.
We need that miracle to defeat our enemies.
It's almost lunchtime. It'll be a good chance to talk to everyone.
Though, the problem is whether or not they'll take it seriously when I talk to them. Once I start talking about the secret society, Tokyo, they'll obviously ask what manga I'm talking about. I need to figure out a good way to discuss it so I avoid misunderstandings.
How? I think it'll be better to be honest with them, without really thinking too much about it.
Do you really think so?
Yes. Let's just try. Tell them in a way I'll teach you, and I'm sure they'll take you seriously and help out.
I'm still not sure, but Hanyu seems very confident. Hanyu has spent her life observing various people. She had never talked to Mion directly before this life, but she knows her better than I do. I talked to everyone during lunchtime, in a way that Hanyu taught me. There's a reason why sliced cheese is pushed so hard her in the state, because when the dairy industry boomed, there was a lot of milk byproduct that has been disposed, so they started filling up caves. But you know what? You can make that byproduct. You can make cheese with it. I have NASCAR because of Prohibition. Ah! Wait, that's why NASCAR exists? Interesting. Also, yeah, I remember hearing something about like government cheese. like there was just a lot of cheese made during a certain time frame, and like I think I remember seeing that's like why cheese is just everywhere, because they just have caves full of cheese, and like each person has like a whole wheel of cheese that you can call the government and be like, hey, I want my government cheese. I haven't done it myself, but like they're like huge rolls of cheese. That sure is interesting. And then?
That's amazing, Nikita. How do you come up with things like that?
I know. You're so talented. If you work on it a little more, you can end up with a really great manga.
I don't know what to say. I thought maybe something was bothering you because you haven't been looking good since this morning. Why didn't you come to me first? See? I told you that you can count on them. Hello? count on them, huh? It all comes down to how you put it, I guess.
This old man can create application forms, make rough drafts, ink tone, make draw backgrounds, typeset, and proofread, make manuscripts from a printer, publish, distribute, and support. He can do it all. Good thing you came to him.
Oh, well, you sure are great, Mion. You can be a cartoonist, an editor, a publisher, and a bookstore owner all at once.
Really? My dad says things like that too. Is doing everything yourself in style now?
Oh, I'm curious about what kind of comic Mi-chan would write. I'm curious.
Probably, some spicy stuff.
Hold on. You're all getting sidetracked. Let's hope it gets out, all right?
I want to have my cheese wheel and eat it too. I'm gonna take my cheese wheel and eat it. I don't even know who you technically call to get your government to sign into cheese wheel. I told them about the secrets surrounding Hinamizawa. I told them that I wanted to write a comic book and that I needed their help to decide on a few things. If I spoke to them about this normally, they might question my sanity. But to see things change this dramatically, with just a little preface. Hanyu, you're pretty good. Anyway, so if this queen carrier dies, then the village will be destroyed because of some emergency measure. That's the focus, right?
My goodness, if there really was someone like that, you better be careful. One mistake and poof, the whole village would disappear. And we would just capture her, wrap her in bubble wrap, and put her in storage or something. But she gets killed, right? If they know her death will create a disaster, why would they kill her? Why? That's just it. The bad people at the research center know what will happen, yet they're still trying to kill me. I mean, the Queen Carrier. I just can't think of a good explanation for why.
I kind of see an outline of the motive, though. Can they actually find a hint without knowing any of the actual details? When your friend has a good idea, so you casually call a comic book studio, right? That's so simple. The fact that the entire village gets destroyed if the queen character dies is a motive in of itself. Mion laughed as she casually voiced what was on her mind.
But Mion, this villain wants to research the disease more, so there's no way she'd put an end to it herself. How well?
That's not a big problem. Just set some masterminds pulling strings behind that villain. That or some villain who's just using that villain. A villain who wants to use Takano? Listen, if the queen dies, the village is plunged into chaos. So to cover up, a mass execution operation is carried out. Fundamentally, it's a countermeasure against the worst possible outcome, a trump card that must never be played. Because playing it causes a disaster of its own, even if it settles the previous situation. Now she better be careful, yeah. You're right. In politics, they always talk about who takes responsibility for this and who resigns for that. And if, in fact, a mass execution like that was to take place, someone would have to explain that and take responsibility. Well, it's a secret operation, so I'm sure it won't be made public, but there will be many people questioned with that Tokyo organization, that's for sure. It's that motive for killing the Queen Carrier.
Huh? Why? What benefits from such chaos?
There are plenty of people. Think about it. The wind always blows in one direction. For some people, it's a headwind, and for others, it's a tailwind. There are always people who gain and people who lose.
I see. My brain finds this quite stimulating. In other words, if something like that happens, there will be some people who have to take responsibility for it, and their enemies will gain from it, whoever they are. That's right. There are always different powers and factions within an organization, especially if it's a huge mastermind organization like this Tokyo. I'm sure many different people there have hidden agendas.
In other words, there are plenty of people who want to rule over others, and there are plenty of reasons to assassinate the Queen Carrier.
Are you saying that I mean, even if the bad person doesn't have a reason, that there could be people who have reasons to kill the Queen Carrier in Tokyo?
There you go. You got it. Also, what about this backstory for the bad person in the secret research center? She wants to keep her research going, but it's already been decided it'll end within 3 years, right? So this researcher's about to see all her research turn to naught. That means all her fruits of her life's work are about to be ruined, and she's under extreme duress. Not only that, her pride must be hurt too. That's true. The value of the research this bad person has spent half of her life on isn't being acknowledged by the people at the top, and they even told her that it'll be shut down within 3 years.
That must be tough. It's hard when other people deny that which you've worked on so hard to accomplish. Vika. Yeah, I know.
Amazing. My friends really are the best. This is starting to sound like a real motive for Takano.
So what would this bad person do then?
Of course, the first thing she'd do would be to appeal to her bosses. She'd probably try to explain to Tokyo how important and valuable her research is, and ask them not to shut it down. But, well, if Tokyo just said, yes, got it, continue your research, will increase your budget too, then it wouldn't be much of a comic. So the bosses at Tokyo are sure to turn her request down hard and thoroughly. They tell her that her work is a waste of time and that it should be scrapped immediately, or something like that. Edie told me Takano had gone to Tokyo to request an extension of her research. He also told her that her request was denied, or told me rather.
Can you imagine her anger at having her life's work mocked by her superiors? There are then only 2 options open to her. Satoko, what are they?
That's easy. She can cry herself to sleep over it, or she can take her revenge. Kiichi and Satoko gave each other a high five. Speaking of anime, if I had a quarter for any time a Aztec goddess is turned into a big booby blonde lady, I'd have 2 quarters. That's not much. But it's all that's happened twice. Oh man. Aztec goddess into a big booby blonde lady. Which ones are you talking about? Because I know like anime tends to turn like anything into a big booby lady. Although they didn't give Nyaruko 2 big boobs. Well, laying down and taking it wouldn't be very interesting either. In that case, the villainous researcher, who loved her research much more than anyone, starts growing desperate and believing that she could at least should end it herself rather than letting someone else end it for her, all because of her pride.
And that's where the hidden agenda from Tokyo comes in. No way. You mean that idea that someone will gain when the village is thrown into disaster and another is forced to take responsibility? Exactly. The villainous researcher is depressed after having her life's work rejected, but by riling her up the right way, they can cause a tragedy in the village without soiling their own hands. Then they can take their time investigating and demanding responsibility. Well done! See?
That's right. There's more. This villain is depressed after having your life's work rejected, right? So then, one of the young leaders plotting to kick another member of Tokyo down and climb the ladder dispatches his own agent to entice this villain. Fate Grand Order, Absolute Demonic, and Dragon Maid. Yeah. Definitely Dragon Maid.
She's depressed because her reason for existing is trampled on, right? If someone tells her that she believes in her and such, she'll fall for it easily. The stronger a person's pride is, the easier they fall for that kind of encouragement.
And that means the bad person is simply being used by her evil masterminds. Well, this happens a lot in action shows. You know how, like, someone devotes her life to an evil organization, but after one mistake, he gets eliminated?
But in this story, the evil researcher has to be eliminated for sure, right? For the masterminds, there's no point in letting her stick around.
That's right. So this poor bad person, she thinks she's gotten an evil little part to her play, but at the end, her life's work is insulted, she gets used by the masterminds, and after all of that, she gets killed. Although she's a bad person, people may sympathize with her for what she has to go through. But I guess that's what makes this story interesting. Don't you think? Maybe we can use that in the next issue. Hanyu and I could only listen to them talk. They were truly amazing. They really are. It is very possible, especially if I think about Takano's character. Come to think of it, Edie kept repeating, "This isn't possible," a whole lot, which means that those words could be a reflection of how possible it might really be. I'm sure my friends can answer that question. I'm going to ask them. So let's ask them.
Then why is she so desperate when she still has 3 years left?
That doesn't matter. It really doesn't make a difference if you're getting executed tomorrow or 3 days later, right? It's just a matter of the length of her probation. That bad person doesn't feel like she has 3 years left, and she feels that she has been sentenced to die in 3 years. That's just what the masterminds want. They're the ones controlling this bad person. I think it's the masterminds who want to destroy the village in this particular time, not the bad person. This is a huge operation, you know? It has to succeed. The death of the queen you know what? I'm just gonna let it happen. Isn't the only key to success. Whoever's at the top has to decide to go ahead with the emergency measure. The responsibility issue after the operation is aside, they have to take care of things like preparation, or rather, they have to figure out the perfect time to do the most damage. After calculating all that, I think they're going to get in on the operation now that the project has only 3 years left. So in the end, after this bad person gets used, she's eliminated. She's a villain, but I feel sorry for her.
I see. Hello. Okay, let me move on to the most important thing. To defeat them, how can the Queen Carrier Girl fight back? She's the main character in my story.
Wait, with fate on my mind, was the Colchicus of Rome a hero? He was a bronze statue that didn't even exist.
I don't know. Anybody in chat know about fate and then maybe can answer?
Because I don't. I also don't know much history. Huh, that sounds interesting. So the girl they're trying to kill has to run from the evil people, right? It depends on how you serialize it. If you want a long series, coming up with new pursuers and assassins one after another will let you go on for a long time.
If possible, we want a short-term and concentrated series.
I burst out laughing at Hanyu's metaphor. Okay, then we just have to take care of the bad person quickly and shoot for a happy ending. It's more exciting to fight than to run.
But the main character is just an ordinary little girl, right? How can she fight?
Girls nowadays aren't powerless. She might appear to be a cute, weak girl, but she has secret hidden powers. She's an S-rank hunter with the blood of royalty, and her nickname is Ebony Fallen Age.
That sounds like a lame original character from some middle schooler.
I wonder if that was me. One of those Neon's little 7th Circle character. Oh my gosh, that'd be so cute. Hey Mion, what's wrong? Do you have a stomachache or something? Fine. This old man is just not talented enough.
Mion, you can do it.
Though, when you read that manga 10 years from now, it may be so bitter you writhe in agony. Oh no.
Hello. I know exactly what Mion is trying to say, but anyway, or I don't know exactly what Mion is trying to say, but anyway, the main character is a weak little girl, and she doesn't have any special weapons. If anything, she's good at acting innocent. Also, she's mean, and she abuses me with spicy food. That sounds good. I'll try that starting tonight. Oh, wow.
Was that sound from the Eternity? I don't know. Or Ace Attorney. Maybe. I think this came out before Ace Attorney did. I see. So she's just a regular girl, huh? But a story where a character like that beats such a conspiracy is going to be difficult. No, wait. It's impossible. She couldn't win without at least gathering a variety of weapons and the skills to operate a radio and a helicopter. Either that or professional survivalists who underwent special forces training with the Soviets. That or someone capable of causing confusion in the ranks of just a truck and a few weapons once they're in the jungle.
I have a feeling that if Mion and Setsuko were the main character's friends, they'd solve the problem right here.
Huh? This old man? Sure, if he was a character, it'd change the whole story. My fighting techniques and leadership skills are unparalleled. Plus, if the story took place here in the village, my familiarity with the area is top-notch too. Besides, anyone who makes an enemy of Setsuko is as good as dead. Ain't I right?
I don't know what kind of secret unit this bad person has, but they are nothing compared to my traps. If the main character and I barricaded ourselves in the hills, no enemy could lay his fingers on her.
Yeah, if she holds with Satsuko in the hills behind us, then her assailants will need either a bombardment capable of crossing the whole thing, or a Hanoi-class heavy bomber at least. Even if they led with that before entering the mountain, they'd still take on several severe casualties. Furthermore, I'd be commanding the operations. Well, her assailants better be prepared for casualties on par with the Iwo Jima landing. Right, Satoko?
Oh, they better bring a nuclear warhead if they want to fight me in the hills. True, Satoko would be amazing in the hills, but are you sure you can defeat the bad person's helpers? They are professionals, you know.
Surprise attacks and traps are effective against anyone. The Vietnam War is a good example. The US Army, the most powerful military in the world, couldn't stand up against the jungle. A multitude of traps set by someone who knows the area well will go a long way.
Are you saying Satoko's traps would work on them too?
Of course! Not only that, they'd be very effective. The purpose of traps isn't just to ensnare their victims, they also make people extremely afraid. They are professionals, so they'll be extra careful. Therefore, their commander will become indecisive. He will have to decide whether to go into the hills or not. That means we gain more time. So they would need at least a bombardment to capture us. But this isn't a war, so they probably won't go that far.
I definitely don't think it's possible. Anyway, Mion is a professional when it comes to deciding on tactics, and she's saying that Satoko's traps will be more than effective, even against the mountain dogs. That's very reassuring.
The flip side of the traps is that they can only be used to defend. It takes a long time to set them up. Also, traps don't discriminate. Satoko's hills meet all the requirements, though.
That's true. Nobody goes into the hills, and Satoko-chan's traps are already everywhere. The main character can barricade herself in just by going there.
If I'm going to be there, it won't just be a simple barricade. I'm going to use it as a diversion to draw away the enemy's main force, then launch a surprise attack. Drawing the enemy in deep and attacking them from behind while the defenses are light is the rudimentary tactic for an ambush and counterattack. Repelling them is the beachhead for the height of hard-headedness.
I showed up too early, so now I'm invisible. Mi-chan and Satoko-chan are so cool. But, Keiichi-kun and I are left out. Then all of us will be the main characters. We'll all fight them off together.
There we go. That's better. Now that we're all in on this, it's like this is the club members versus the evil organization, huh? I don't know what kind of bad person this is, but I feel sorry for her and her friends. Though I don't know how powerful they are. Fighting face-to-face is one thing, but if we use our knowledge on the terrain, they have no chance of winning. If they want to defeat us here in Hinamizawa, they'll need to bring an Overlord-class enemy to bear. Though we'll fight off even that. Mion laughed and everyone nodded along. Amazing. I'm starting to think that if we try our best, we can defeat even the mountain dogs. If we fight directly, we'll be taken down immediately, even if we use a surprise attack. But if we set traps, and we have enough of them, who knows? In World War II, there was a mad English Doctor Who. Dream, do not freeze on Bailey! No! Don't bully! Don't bully Bailey!
See, Rika? Your friends are very reliable. You're right. I don't know why I never told them anything about it until now. Even if it's something you can't do alone, you can do it with your friends.
Don't laugh at Bailey Rocket. It's mean. Even if only a miracle can happen, if we all try our hardest, it can be done easily. That's what a miracle is. My heart is pounding. What is this emotion? I feel like nothing is impossible if I work together with them. Hanyu told me that, in a different world, they defeated the worst-case scenario of all, and the one where Teppei comes home. I don't remember, but something tells me deep inside that the exact same kind of miracle is about to happen in this world, too.
Me, and everyone else, too. We want a lot more ideas. How can we defeat this conspiracy? Please tell me a lot more.
Oh my gosh, that's a great roll, Rocket. The dice are not gonna give you a 1, no matter how hard you tried, apparently, today. Okay. So, whose perspective are we in now? Are we still in Rika's? I'd only asked for Tometake. Yes, we are. But Edie had come with him. Edie must be bothered by what I told him this morning, but he can't come to a conclusion on his own, so he wants Tomitake to listen to me too. After saying that he wouldn't interrupt us, Edie sat down a little distance away. I heard from Director Edie. Why are you suspicious of Takano-san? She knows better than anyone that your death would cause a disaster. Besides, Takano-san has been good to you and Satoko-chan, right? And to say this about her now, don't you think that's a little ungrateful? I suspected this from Tomitake. If I was in the same mood as I was this morning, I probably wouldn't have continued. But having expected this, I'm able to continue without getting upset.
Tomitake, please be honest with me. I want you to really think about it too. Of course Takano wouldn't kill me under normal circumstances, but can you absolutely guarantee that she would never do so?
What do you mean?
Takano has devoted her life to a research of the syndrome. Is that true?
Yeah. Just between you and me, she's the most important person in this institution. Director Edie's position is just a formality, and Takano-san is the one who's really leading the research. This is supposed to be a secret, but the syndrome was discovered by her grandfather. Takano-san respects him greatly, and she opens the Edie Institute so she could continue and complete his research. Wait, even Edie doesn't know about this. At this point, I'm not going for a 1, I'm going for less than 4. Right?
Well, good luck to ya. So, how does she feel now about being told that the project will be shutting down within 3 years? Takano even went to Tokyo and requested an extension, but it was denied, right? Couldn't you say then that the meaning of her life itself is being denied? Don't you think she's hurt?
Rika-chan, where did you hear all that? Tomitake went silent for a moment. He must have realized that I'm not just saying random things. Wait, what happens if you roll a 1? If I roll a 1? I don't know. If anybody rolls a 1, then it times them out. But if I roll a 1, I have no idea. I believe he doesn't know about the vial that puts someone straight into L5. Yeah, I believe Takano was the only one that knows about that vial. But like, I was talking about the fact that the research was started by her grandfather. I believe Tomitake is the only person that knew that. I don't remember if she shared that with Edie. It is true that Takano-san went to see the board of directors, and that she was evaluated extremely poorly. According to what I've heard, they really ridiculed her work. She was told that the research project was a waste of money. She's been acting normally, but I think she really was hurt by it, yeah.
See? So, how can you be so sure that she won't become desperate, thinking that her research is going to be shut down anyway?
Oh, yeah. He was treated as a crazy person, yeah. If you need to fly close to the sun with me just for the research, okay. I will see if I can roll a 1. See? Got a 14. Okay. I'll roll again in a moment. No, not Takano-san. That's impossible. That's the same thing that Edie said. He kept saying it was impossible, yet he couldn't deny it completely. He repeated the same phrase over and over to refute that possibility. In fact, even though we know Takano is the enemy, we can only guess at her motive. The only way to find out is to tie her down and make her confess. But there is meaning to making Tomitake become suspicious of Takano. It's even important to do that, so that he'll become my ally. Of course, this is also a strategy devised by our club leader. Can't believe Zeph is going to accidentally end stream. I'm very curious on what he'll do if I roll a 1. We're playing with fire here, folks. Whoops, I rolled too early. It's rather a scary thing to imagine, but Takano-san won't gain anything from your death. I can understand her being desperate, but she has self-control. Time heals all wounds.
Isn't it easier to deceive the heartbroken?
Deceive? What do you mean? Whoops, I got a 20.
Tomitake, if I die, something terrible will happen, right? An emergency manual will be executed, and the whole village will be destroyed.
Is that right? I had no idea. Tometake isn't good at covering his lies. It shows that he's bad at hiding things since he's innately honest, which makes him a nice person.
Edie told me already. I don't want to waste time, so let's be open about this, okay? The emergency manual is a last resort, so if it's actually executed, it'll be a disaster, right?
Tometake seemed to be wondering if he should confirm the existence of the emergency manual, but the fact that Yeti had already told me about it, combined with me being the Queen Carrier, prompted him to confirm it, albeit hesitantly. Wait, would the bot unalive itself? That is a good question, because the bot posts as myself. Huh. I'm actually curious if that would kill the bot. Yeah, it will be a disaster. It's not easy to erase an entire village. We'll have to cross several dangerous bridges, and it's not humane even if it becomes necessary. It truly will be a disaster.
I'll be straight with you. Someone will benefit from that situation.
No way. There can't be. There won't be any gains. It'll develop into a hunt for blame. And in the worst case, the problem might expand past Tokyo and into the government.
In which case, there's someone who will benefit from that commotion, isn't there? If the emergency manual is executed, there'll be someone forced to sign off on it. And afterwards, they'll start an investigation into the people who allowed this situation to get to that point. To be specific, those in charge of organizing the Iri Institute, won't those manipulators be forced to take the blame and be driven out of Tokyo?
I'm not sure.
There's a limited number of posts. People are constantly vying for them. So, would it be strange if there was someone hoping to steal a seat by lighting a fuse on this dangerous bomb we call the emergency manual? They could remain hidden in a safe place and smugly fill the empty seat after everything's blown up.
All this is what Mion suggested. She didn't know a thing about Tokyo, yet she struck its core so hard even Tometake was shaken. Mion is the greatest commander and strategist our club could ever have. Tometake folded his arms. He's starting to lose his cool. I think he realizes that what I'm saying isn't mere nonsense. It's true that a big shot in Tokyo just passed away. He left a power vacuum, and there's a political struggle going on over it. Even the Iri Institute's client, the Alphabet Project, had its board of directors purged and reformed, so there's been talk of immediately shutting down the research in order to make it an example of the Iri Institute since it was supported by the old faction.
So if I die, and the emergency manual is executed, the Iri Institute and the board of directors behind it, as well as the faction that supports them, will be held responsible. Normally, the Hinamizawa syndrome and the other dangerous bombs associated with it are safe because only Tokyo knows about them. But then there's an emergency within Tokyo itself. Hinamizawa becomes a bomb that's all too easy to detonate.
A stream of people toying with fate. What can go wrong, right? Just better rolls. Is that something you made up, Rika-chan?
Is it a fabrication? Or is it the truth?
I don't know. But if I think about what's going on in Tokyo, I guess it is possible for some people to think things like that.
Tometake, you are a good person. You're a very good person who believes in his close friend. So, I know if I say these things to that Tometake, you'll never accept them. But I have to bring this up with First Lieutenant Tometake, auditor for the Iri Institute.
You aren't saying... Are you saying that it's Takano-san?
Yes, her request was denied, as was her own life. Not only that, she was denounced by the board of directors, so she's very hurt. You should know that, since you're always with her, Tometake. Is there any chance that someone seeking to use that heartbroken Takano approached her and instigated her into action? People who are hurt often open their hearts to whoever claims to understand them. Someone like that might have approached Takano to start something that will lead to chaos in Tokyo.
Tometake insisted that Takano-san would never do that. He repeated it a few more times, but then he fell silent again. Tometake is an adult. He must have experienced some heartbreaking events himself. That's why he can understand that Takano is very hurt, and that it's possible that someone is using her. I understand what you want to say. I should clear some issues first before I can truly trust Takano-san, huh?
Tometake.
I'll get in touch with both Ogonogi-kun from the Mountain Dogs and the Tokyo office to see if there's been any suspicious reports regarding Takano-san lately. The Mountain Dogs' specialty is counterintelligence after all.
No, the Mountain Dogs are on Takano's side.
What?
This is someone who persuaded Takano. Of course, they've taken measures for the Mountain Dogs as well.
That isn't impossible. The Mountain Dogs are a special counterintelligence unit. Even if there was a collaborator on the Iri Institute, it would be very difficult so long as they were attending to their duties. But if the Mountain Dogs themselves were... Can that be? But...
Tometake, please look into both Takano and the Mountain Dogs. Iri is on my side, but he doesn't know too much about Tokyo.
At this point, her best way to prove the parasite is an issue is to make said issue 10,000. Yeah, 10 times worse. Oh my gosh. Maybe your next roll will be a 1. That's true. I'm just a researcher. I know my position is just a formality for their convenience. That's why I can't clear Rika-chan's suspicion by myself.
I understand. I've been told that there is a possibility that the Iri Institute can become rebellious. There's a reason why I'm here.
I'll start investigating Takano-san and the Mountain Dogs right away. It was me talking the whole time and not Rika-chan at all.
Thank you for believing me. This is the first time you actually have.
I've been laughed away in many worlds, but Tometake finally listened to me. He will be a very strong ally in the fight against Takano. Also, I'm grateful for my friends who prepared me to talk to him. I got information on the current situation from Iri, had my friends analyze it, and because of that, managed to get Tometake to listen. Just as Hanyu said, I couldn't have done anything if I'd kept thinking about it all alone. But after talking to my friends, things are already changing. Actually,
I'm going to go into hiding starting today. Mion's house has a secret basement that's perfect for that.
I haven't talked to Mion about it yet, but I think she'll understand my request now.
So if you find anything, please get in touch with her. Starting today, please act like I've gone missing.
Understood. I think it's safest, too. I'll act like I usually do, so people don't grow suspicious. Though I'll be careful, of course. Dr. Iri, please act normal as well, but always be on your guard. I understand. I'll be very cautious. I can't focus on my new model because I can't freaking roll a 1. Oh no. I believe in you. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but I believe in you, Rocket. Tometake, please be careful yourself. I have a feeling you might be assassinated within a few days. Or wait, no, that was Zika saying that. This is the part that he's never taken seriously. Please, hear what I'm saying. Okay, I'll be extra careful. Thank you. Then Tometake turned around all of a sudden. Iri and I sensed something odd from his behavior and grew tense. Then, we heard some footsteps. We've been so careless. Did somebody overhear us? Did Takano and her people hear what we were saying? I'll never forget that laugh as long as I live. Oh no. Man, you really are suffering from success. Hello. What an interesting group. Dr. Iri, Tometake-san, and Rika-san. I've been to Hinamizuwa quite often, but I've never seen you three together before. Oh, hello, Oishi-san. Huh? Is today the meeting day for Watanagashi? It's still so early. Iri tried to change the subject, but obviously Oishi had heard everything. Tometake from Tokyo is okay, but it's too early for Oishi from the police department to get involved. Things are already complicated. Why does he have to show up now? Oh, what? Because I got smited earlier, the other bot. The bot is taking pity, right? Mix it up as just like, oh man, this person got bonked by stream elements earlier today. Let's give them good rolls. Why does he have to show up now? Anyway, this isn't good. Well, when I went to your house, Hojo-san told me you were here, and I happened to run into your secret meeting. Sorry to bother you, though. The air froze, leaving only silence. The way Oishi is speaking makes it obvious that he's trying to sniff things out. I bet he only heard a part of our conversation, so he can't grasp exactly what we were talking about. That's why he's trying to make us confess to the whole thing. Come now, don't look at me like that. I'm getting embarrassed. Well, I brought someone with me today. Someone Rika-san would love to see again. I wonder if you remember Rika-san, because if you don't, you might even start crying. What? Who? I can only think of one person. But did he ever come here in June 1983? But who else would come visit me? Come on in. Mix-it-up's bullying you. Oishi encourages a virile young man to enter. He looked a lot more mature than the last time I saw him.
Akasaka.
Thank you for remembering me, Eureka-chan. You won't tell me to go back to Tokyo this time, will you?
Akasaka. Akasaka!
I remember how you helped me. Or rather, maybe I forgot at some point. But if I forgot about it completely, I would regret it. So I recalled it. You told me to call Yukie, and because I did, she avoided getting in an accident. You saved her life, and I'm here now out of gratitude. I feel like I've forgotten about it for a very long time, but now I finally remember. Sorry to make you wait for so long.
That's right. You made me wait forever. And now you show up in this final world. You waited until the very last minute. How dare you! Akasaka! Akasaka!
I'm your ally no matter what. I'll believe everything you tell me, and I will defeat whoever is trying to kill you. Akasaka remembered some strange things as he talked to me. He remembered the sad world where he lost his wife working on the kidnapping case in Hinamizawa. He forgot about me because of the despair and only remembered her afterwards. He regretted not being able to do anything for me. And that memory from a different world brought Akasaka here. Akasaka calls himself my ally. That means a lot to me, since I never thought I'd have any allies at all. I could only bury my face in Akasaka's chest and cry. Oishi, this is not the time. This is not the time for you, Oishi. I haven't seen anything. I don't know anything about you having such a young wife here in Hinamizawa when your wife's back in Tokyo. Nope, don't know a thing. Oishi-san, no. This isn't what you think.
Akasaka. 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 Oh.
I complained that I couldn't defeat Takanobu alone. Hanyu admonished me. She told me that if we put our strength together and all believed in the same thing, we could make a miracle happen. I didn't believe her. But after I talked... Sorry, I just saw me rocking on a 20! But after I talked to Iri, my friends, and Tometake, things are getting better and better. And now Akasaka is here too. Was Akasaka supposed to be coming back? Or is this a miracle? Miracles do occur. This man never helped me even once before, yet he might be my most dependable ally. Now he's back and he's even telling me that I was my ally no matter what.
See? It happens. Miracles really do occur.
You're right. We can make them happen. If we keep putting our strength together, do you think even more miracles will happen? Then, do you think we can make a miracle happen and defeat the curse of 1983?
Yes, because we can smash through June of 1983 only by putting everyone's strength together.
Hanyu, who used to just be a bystander, is now persuading me. She's admonishing me for pretending to fight while I, too, was actually just a sulky bystander. Are you okay, Rika-chan?
Yes. Sorry about that. Seeing you brought back so many memories that I lost my cool. Meep.
I wiped my tears and tried to hide my embarrassment. The Higurashi continued to cry. The Higurashi had been trying to remind me of something very important. I felt like they had taught me something important, and my eyes grew teary again. I'm surprised. I didn't know you had such a wonderful boyfriend. Let me introduce myself. I'm Mamoru Akasaka. I work in Case Records Room 7 of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department's Public Security Bureau. Aren't the Case Records Room in Tokyo's Public Safety Bureau a secret department on par with the CIRO? I believe it's a tough secret investigation unit that some have criticized as being secret police. No department would be foolish enough to slap secret onto their name for a secret division. Real secret divisions have boring names meant to fool the average person. That's true for Akasaka's department as well. It's called a reference room, but they don't manage documents. You seem to know quite a lot about us. I didn't think there would be someone who knows the true identity of the public safety department. Judging from the conversation you were having, I take it you have your own reasons for that. Well, I'm into stuff like that. I just happen to know, that's all. Tomitake-san, why don't you reveal your identity, I, for one, always figured you weren't just some traveling photographer. No, that is the truth. I just like taking pictures. That's all. What a waste of time this conversation is. This is the final world, after all.
Tomitake is the one who is connecting us in Tokyo. But he's my ally just the same. Rika-chan!
Tomitake and Iri yelled simultaneously. To them, it's an extremely important secret, and if someone were to find out, they'd get eliminated by the mountain dogs. But it's okay now. There's no point in continuing to have suspicions and doubts. I've had enough of that. It's already obvious Tomitake isn't telling the truth, but he's still trying to deny what I just said. You're Director Iri, right? Thank you for taking care of me when I was injured 5 years ago. You really did a great job treating my wounds. Of all days, I don't. And second I try, right? You've gotten so close. Now I remember. No, don't mention it. I only did my job. The Iri Clinic is also known as the Iri Institute, right? Well, I mean... Come now, Dr. Iri, it's no use. We already heard it all earlier. You were saying that the Iri Institute's client is the Alphabet Project, right? I don't need to hear it from you. I already know everything. Up until just recently, Room 7 was investigating the men behind that, and their means of funneling vast sums of money. The Alphabet Project was one of their tunnels. Akasaka is holding the top-secret document he got his hands on a few days ago. This document records how certain people were given public funds from ministries and government offices for assisting with various projects. These masterminds claimed that they were attempting to revitalize Japan by using secret money and secret methods, but that was a lie even amongst themselves. The masterminds of these projects were making an enormous profit off of them. If that became public knowledge, Japan would be shaken to the core, and government would be overthrown. That was what they were told, and that was the reason why the investigation was discontinued. First of all, I want to tell you one thing. The investigation by Room 7 has been shut down, and we are no longer working on the case. So I'm simply telling you what I found in the course of the investigation. I'm on vacation here in Hinamizawa right now. I just want you to know that. Tomitake is still trying to hide his identity, but Iri isn't. He must have made up his mind, so Akasaka already knows about the Alphabet Project. We already know that they've been using tunnels to move vast sums of money to the research institute in Shishibone known as the Iri Institute. Also, the Iri Institute has a different name here in the parentheses, the Iri Clinic. It also lists that the head of the Iri Institute is a lieutenant colonel from the SDF, Kyosuke Iri. A lieutenant colonel? Dr. Iri, you're in the SDF? No, I'm not. Tomitake-san, let me tell them. Putting our clients aside, we aren't doing anything shady. Let's not hide anything. It'll only make Oishi-san more suspicious.
Iri is right. Oishi will help us.
I'm starting to feel like even Oishi could be our ally. That would be incredible. Okay. So, I wanted to wait for a proper moment, but we're going into like backstory stuff, so this is gonna take a while. So I feel like this is probably the best stopping point that we're gonna have.
Because my elf is getting anxious.
So we will leave off at a cliffhanger of lore. And then we will go over here, over into my just chatting screen, and then we can find somebody to raid. Let me see. I know some people I wanted to raid were streaming. Aw, psych ended. Let's see, what's Alma doing?
Right, she's doing some art stuff. Yeah. We will raid Amma again. Woo woo. Amaryllis.
Okay.
Hey, have a good night.
Oh, raid message. Lore raid. Fight the nurse raid. Fight the nurse.
Okay, there is the message. Like,
I always do that to myself.
But thank you everybody for joining today. We will be streaming at the same time tomorrow.
Hopefully we'll get to the ending of this chapter, or at least pretty close to it. I think we made some good progress today.
I think we made some good progress, and then once we are done with that, we will play 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors. We'll do the heckin' zero escape thing that we were talking about.
I don't know if we'll like go through each of them in order or if we'll take turns from there. But yeah, once we finish this chapter, we're done with the main story of Higurashi.
So yeah,
I'm excited to hear the voice acting for a bunch of the different characters because the
game was originally on the DS, so it didn't have voice acting. Oh gosh, I didn't say that fast enough. Bye guys. Bye. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Oh gosh, right at the end.